Chapter 364, Chapter 364, Martial Emperor Shun Tianzhou. Chapter 364, Martial Emperor Shun Tianzhou. On the surface, Spirituality City was calm, but only the three forces knew that there was a storm brewing in the dark. Every 100 years, the Spirituality City would recruit martial artists to supplement the defense of the Spirituality City. They would also take advantage of this opportunity to stabilize the Queen's Palace. Naturally, the other two factions would also take in some foreign factions at the same time. Although the Queen's Palace did not allow it, as time passed, the two factions would continue to expand their influence. The Queen's Palace would turn a blind eye to it. Moreover, the Queen's Palace's power would not even put the Purple Jade Palace and the Heaven-Hidden sect in their eyes. No matter how they expanded, they would not be stronger than the Queen's Palace. When the two factions expanded, the Queen's Palace would also expand, and the Queen's Palace's influence would only grow. The Purple Jade Palace and the Heaven-Hidden sect were still suppressed by the Queen's Palace. Another 100 years had just passed, and Spirituality City was quiet again. In less than a month, a rare treasure from Boundless Heaven Mountain, thousands of miles away from Spirituality City, had appeared, attracting countless experts. Got it? A peerless divine artifact appeared on the Boundless Heaven Mountain. It is said that the divine chi soared into the sky and the world was scattered with multicolored light. The entire Lingyun city knows about the birth of the Boundless Heaven Mountain's treasure. I saw it that day too. The colorful light shot into the sky. Although it was only for a few seconds, the colorful light shot into the sky. All the martial artists in the entire Spirit Rhyme City could see it. Countless super experts from the Spirituality City are heading towards the Boundless Heaven Mountain. Sigh, that's the matter of the super experts. Disciples below the Martial King realm like us will be trampled to death if we go. You have to choose the right time to watch the show. There was news of treasures from Boundless Heaven Mountain everywhere in Spirituality City. Li Lingtian had also received quite a bit of news. Li Lingtian found it funny. A rare treasure was born. What a joke. The few top-notch divine artifacts in his hands did not have such a reaction. If there was really a treasure, it would not have waited until the 100 years of Spirituality City to appear. However, he also felt a burst of joy about the fact that countless super experts were heading to the Boundless Heaven Mountain. Because the more chaotic it was, the better it was for him. However, what he did not expect was that when all the powerhouses rushed to the Boundless Heaven Mountain, the Queen's Palace sent a Martial Emperor powerhouse, hundreds of martial honors, and tens of thousands of Queen's Palace disciples to surround the Boundless Heaven Mountain. Such a move surprised him. They had actually sent a Martial Emperor powerhouse over. Yu Yan, Qing Ling, wait here. Don't go out. I'll go take a look. Li Lingtian pondered for a moment. A distance of 1,000 miles was only a matter of 10 minutes. At such a close distance, he would not be in any danger as long as he did not make a move. His goal was not the treasure but to see how powerful the Queen's Palace's Martial Emperor powerhouse was. The Queen's Palace must have more than one Martial Emperor since they could casually send out a Martial Emperor. Since he wanted to deal with the Queen's Palace, he naturally had to find out more about them. Be careful. Huangfu Yuyan nodded. With Long Da's help, Li Lingtian would not be in any danger. Furthermore, Li Lingtian's abilities were extremely terrifying. Don't worry, I'm just taking a look. Li Lingtian tidied himself up after he finished speaking and headed outside. Long Da followed closely behind him like a lackey of a young master from an aristocratic family. In Spirituality City, there were treasures from Boundless Heaven Mountain everywhere. Li Lingtian and his companion flew at a moderate pace and arrived at Boundless Heaven Mountain in half an hour. Along the way, there were also many experts flying towards the Boundless Heaven Mountain. There was no hostility between them because before they saw the treasure, they would not make enemies for no reason. The Boundless Heaven Mountain was a mountain peak with a radius of 100 miles. However, at the top of this mountain peak, there was a lake with a radius of 10 miles. The water of the lake was silvery white. There was no breeze at the top of the mountain, and there were no ripples on the lake. It was like stagnant water. The previously unremarkable boundless heaven mountain was now in an uproar. Thousands of experts floated in the air and looked at the lake water of boundless heaven mountain. It was said that the signs of the treasure appeared in this lake water. The arrival of Li Lingtian and Long Di did not attract the attention of the others, as there were more and more people like him who had rushed over and were admitting defeat. He looked at the martial artists of the Queen's palace in the air. There were tens of thousands of martial king disciples on hundreds of spaceships. Each spaceship had a martial honor. Hundreds of spaceships surrounded the entire lake. At the edge of the lake was a middle-aged expert dressed like a scholar. His entire body emitted a shocking aura. Martial Emperor. A martial emperor at the peak of the first heaven. Long Di spoke in a soft voice which reached Li Lingtian's ears with a hint of fear in his eyes. Li Lingtian felt a tinge of fear toward the martial emperor. He was also shocked by the situation. Martial Emperor, a martial emperor powerhouse from the Queen's palace. Li Lingtian was shocked. Long Di's strength was something that even a second heaven martial emperor would not be able to defeat. However, he was actually afraid of a first heaven martial emperor. It seemed that this martial emperor had a powerful background. "Brother, who's that, sir? He seems to be very powerful." Li Lingtian greeted a martial honor powerhouse not far away with a faint smile on his face. He then looked at the martial emperor from the Queen's palace. "Sir, you are an outsider, right? No wonder you are like this. This person's identity is not something an ordinary martial monarch realm expert can compare to. He's the son-in-law of the Queen's palace, Shun Tianzhou. He's a first heaven martial monarch realm expert. Even a second heaven martial monarch realm expert is no match for him. I didn't expect him to be sent out to handle this matter. It seems like the Queen's palace places a lot of importance on this matter." Seeing that Li Lingtian was pleasing to the eye, Wang Tianli revealed Shun Tianzhou's identity. When he mentioned Shun Tianzhou, his face revealed a strange expression. "So you're the son-in-law of the Queen's palace? Isn't the surname Shun in the Queen's palace?" Li Lingtian replied calmly. Although he did not know much about the Queen's palace, he knew that the Queen's palace was ruled by women. You don't know about this, right? The Queen of the Queen's palace is hereditary and the previous princesses have to get married. Only the youngest princess will inherit the Queen's palace. The husband of the youngest princess must also marry into the Queen's palace and change his surname. This Shun Tianzhou also married into the Queen's palace. He is the husband of the Queen and the father of the little princess. Wang Tianli said with a smile. An expert could marry into the family and change his surname for power. However, some experts would treat such a thing as an insult. Shun Tianzhou was also a proud son of heaven. However, he had never cultivated after marrying into the family. Even so, he had easily reached the martial emperor realm. Li Lingtian was shocked when he heard Wang Tianli's words. He thought of Shun Mei, the little princess of the Queen's palace. The super martial emperor before him was also Shun Mei's father. No wonder Shun Mei's emotions were unstable when she left. He also understood why the Wind Spirit Prince had given up on her so easily. He was a martial arts fanatic, so naturally, he would not marry into the Queen's palace. If she was the little princess, she would inherit the Queen's palace. However, her husband wanted to marry into the Queen's palace and change his surname to Shun. Shun Mei knew Li Lingtian's personality well, so it was impossible for him to change his surname and marry into the Queen's palace. Rumble. At this moment, the silver-white lake water began to churn again. Countless water pillars shot up into the sky. The destructive force of the water pillars carried Li Lingtian and the Queen's palace spaceship in the sky. Hundreds of warrior kings were instantly killed and vanished. Disperse! Shun Tianzhou shouted and unleashed all of his martial monarch realm aura. With a flip of his hand, he lightly pressed his palm down on the water pillar. Crash! Crash! The water pillar was neutralized by Shun Tianzhou's palm. All the powerhouses were shocked. Li Lingtian was also shocked, but he was more excited because he could see that Shen Tianzhou's skill contained the truth of heaven and earth. It was the truth of heaven and earth and the heaven and earth's path that only martial emperors could grasp. Seeing that the martial emperor's light palm had such power, he was also excited and envious. The heaven-ranked divine power he used also carried a trace of the heaven and earth orbit, but compared to the martial emperor, it was completely insignificant. Come with me. Shen Tianzhou shouted at the 3 ninth-level Supreme Realm experts. Then, his body flashed and disappeared into the lake. The 3 experts of the 9th heaven also entered the lake. Seeing a few experts enter, countless experts also followed and jumped into the lake. Although countless powerhouses from the Queen's palace stopped them, they did not dare to go overboard when facing the martial artists of the world. In the blink of an eye, countless experts entered the lake. However, most of the experts stayed in the air to watch. They knew their limits. With the existence of a martial monarch realm expert, even if there were treasures, it would not be their turn. Li Lingtian nodded at Longda before the 2 of them entered the lake. The silver-white lake water cut off his divine sense. In the lake water, his divine sense was useless. He could only use his eyes to observe the situation in front of him. Li Lingtian followed the powerhouse in front of him and descended nearly 1,000 meters. The further down they went, the stronger the pressure became. Many warriors immediately turned back and dared not go down. Boom! Boom! At the bottom of the lake, a series of explosions sounded. Suddenly, countless destructive forces rushed up. Many experts were unable to resist or dodge in time and were directly destroyed. Li Lingtian was horrified. It seemed that the water pillar was caused by this destructive force. He wondered what terrifying thing was down there. You stay behind me. Longda stood in front of Li Lingtian and blocked the force. It was a level 7 flood dragon beast. Coupled with the true dragon's chi tempering, Longda's defense had reached a terrifying level. Faced with such a force, a martial venerable or a martial emperor did not have the strength to resist. However, it was nothing to him. Li Lingtian did not say a word either. He followed Longda and quickly descended. Crash! At this moment, a strange sound appeared, and a shocking suction force pulled the 2 of them down. Li Lingtian and Longda did not even have the chance to react to such a shocking turn of events. Countless other powerhouses were sucked in as well. Chapter 365, Chapter 365, The World Crossing Formation, 1. Chapter 365, The World Crossing Formation, 1. The powerful suction force did not give anyone the slightest chance to react. By the time they reacted, they had already entered the bottom of the lake. All the experts appeared in an empty square. They looked at the silver-white lake water above their heads. A vacuum had formed in the middle, and the lake water was slightly fluctuating. Hundreds of Supreme Realm experts and hundreds of martial emperors looked at this scene in shock. Shen Tianzhou and the 3 ninth heaven revered martial artists also looked around. Rumble. Clang, clang. In the center of the square, continuous explosions sounded. All the experts looked at the center of the square. Shen Tianzhou's expression changed drastically. He dashed toward the center of the square. 9 ninth level Supreme Realm Array Masters kept waving their hands and were breaking some powerful array. Under their feet was a huge and mysterious array altar. Blood clouds floated above the array altar, looking extremely terrifying. 9 ninth level Supreme Realm experts working together to break an array formation was definitely not simple. No one knew why Shen Tianzhou was so shocked. Every time he attacked, it was a destructive attack. The destructive attack landed in front of the 9 revered martial artists. Just as it was about to kill them, a destructive light shot towards Shen Tianzhou. With a loud explosion, the square shook. The destructive force spread out in all directions. Shen Tianzhou's body swayed and landed on the square. 2 old men appeared in the center of the square with faint smiles on their faces. Hee, Shen Tianzhou, why are you here alone? Is there no one else in the Queen's palace? The tall old man chuckled and walked forward step by step. His terrifying aura protected the 9 Supreme Realm experts. The other short old man also stood beside the tall one. For a moment, the 2 old men formed a corner. Kanglan House's Old Man Song, Old Man Shao. When Shun Tianzhou saw the 2 old men, his expression changed. He felt that this matter was getting more and more complicated. The experts of the Kanglan House appearing in this place definitely meant nothing good. Although he didn't know what the array was for, he absolutely couldn't tolerate it being used by the Queen's Palace's side. The 3 9th-level Supreme Realm experts also came to Shun Tianzhou's side. Their faces were pale. They had to admit that they were under a lot of pressure when facing 2 2nd-level martial sovereigns. Looks like you haven't forgotten about us 2 old fellows. Old Man Ming Song chuckled, but he had no intention of attacking. Old Man Ming Shao did the same. Anyone with a discerning eye could tell that the 2 martial monarch realm experts had no intention of attacking. They were just stalling for time for the Wu Zun array master behind them. It was definitely not a good thing for 2 martial monarch realm experts to protect a revered realm expert and activate the array. Could there really be some treasure inside? Countless powerhouses thought so in their hearts, but they all stood far away. After all, there were 2 martial monarch realm experts in front of them. Not to mention the 2 martial monarch realm experts, they would not be able to deal with just 9 9th Heaven Supreme Realm experts. Ming Song, this is Spirit City, the Queen's Palace's territory. You've gone too far. There are no treasures here. Even if there are, they don't belong to your House of Storms. Do you want the House of Storms to fight the Queen's Palace? Shun Tianzhou said loudly. He was a little afraid of the 2 martial monarch realm experts. He could only deal with one of them even if he used his full strength. The 3 9th-level revered martial artists beside him were no match for Old Man Ming Shao at all, let alone the 9 9th-level revered martial artists. It was already impossible to stop the activation of the array. Now, they had to find a way to leave this place and inform the Queen's Palace to send people to stop the Kanglan Building's operation. A great battle? You think too highly of the Queen's Palace. Does the Queen's Palace have the qualifications to fight against the House of Storms? Save it. You want to leave? You're courting death. Old Man Ming Shao laughed out loud, completely ignoring the Queen's Palace. The Queen's Palace was one of the 3 super forces in the Azure continent and was on the same level as the House of Storms. However, their true strength could not be compared to the House of Storms. When he was talking about happiness, he saw that a martial honor was about to leave. Old Man Ming Shao sneered and waved his hand. A destructive force passed through space and bombarded the martial honor. Without any resistance, the 2nd level of the Supreme Realm was directly turned into ashes. Hush! All the powerhouses from Spirituality City hushed coldly. They were even more afraid of the martial emperor powerhouses. Under one attack, a Supreme Realm expert was inferior to an ant. Li Lingtian was also shocked. He was a 2nd-level Supreme Realm expert, yet he had no chance to resist a martial supreme. Could it be that you want us to stay? The more Shun Tianzhou thought about it, the more afraid he became. Judging from the looks of the 2 old men, they definitely wouldn't let the people here leave. They were worried that they would leak the news and delay the activation of the formation. The more this was the case, the more Shun Tianzhou felt that something was wrong. The Kanglan House had made such a big move in this place, but the Queen's Palace didn't know about it. If the array was really activated and they obtained some heaven-defying treasure, the Queen's Palace would be finished. He was more worried about the formation. If the formation was a threat to the Queen's Palace, that would be the most terrifying thing. That's not necessary. You just have to wait here for a while. Old Man Ming Song turned around and looked at the 9 Supreme Realm experts. Then, he looked at the changes on the array altar. The smile on his face became wider and wider. While Li Lingtian was shocked, his gaze fell on the array altar. His heart trembled when he saw the fluctuation of the array runes on the array altar. As a powerful array master, he could also see through the array altar. World Crossing Formation. Thinking of this, he exclaimed. He did not expect this array altar to be the heart of the world-crossing array. Could it be that the House of Storms wanted to use this array altar as the true heart of the Crossrealm array to teleport some experts here? If that was the case, the Queen's Palace would be completely finished. What is it? The world-crossing formation. Shun Tianzhou and the three revered martial artists exclaimed. Old Man Ming Xiao and Old Man Ming Tsang were also shocked. Everyone's gaze fell on Li Lingtian. Instantly, Li Lingtian felt as if his heart was about to be pierced by a sharp gaze. The gaze of a martial emperor powerhouse was indeed domineering. You said that he is a realm-crossing formation. Shun Tianzhou's face turned even uglier. He didn't expect that the matter he was worried about was even more serious than he had expected. What did his cross-realm formation mean? It meant that the House of Storms was going to attack the Queen's Palace. This was because if two super forces fought, it would definitely be a life-and-death battle. A life-and-death battle would be a battle between martial supremes and martial emperors. Although the House of Storms was powerful, they did not dare to fly all the martial monarch realm experts over. Even martial monarch realm experts would need a few months to fly to Lingyun City. If that was the case, it would definitely attract the attention of the Wind Moon Palace and the Queen's Palace. If other super experts saw the martial monarch realm experts leaving the House of Storms, it would be disadvantageous to the House of Storms. The only way was to cross billions of miles in an instant. This kind of sudden attack could also catch the opponent off guard. However, only martial saints or ninth heaven martial sovereigns could do it. They either had to find the core of the array as the support point for crossing the realm, or they could not cross it accurately. If it were anyone else, they would not care about the cross-realm formation at all. However, he was an important figure in the Queen's Palace. He had found out the relationship between the Kenglin building and the Queen's Palace. That's right. Even though this isn't the world-crossing formation, it's the core of the formation. They want to activate this formation altar and use the core as the support point of the world-crossing formation. Li Lingtian said calmly. He had already said it out loud and the two martial emperors hated him to death. There was no point in him saying anything more. Hee. I didn't expect that the Queen's Palace would have an array Dao expert. He could actually tell that this was the core of the world-crossing array with a single glance. Unfortunately, you can only stay here. The more you know, the faster you will die. Old Man Ming Tsang and Old Man Ming Xiao were astonished when they heard Li Lingtian's words. They did not expect the young man to be able to see through the array altar's purpose with a single glance. The martial emperor's aura burst out from his body and bombarded Li Lingtian. Old Man Ming Xiao's aura burst out as well and restrained Shun Tianzhou. You're courting death. A cruel smile appeared on Long Da's face when he saw the destructive aura pressing down on him. A terrifying demonic power blasted out, and at the same time, a poisonous fog drifted out. Boom! 7th rank shape-shifting demonic beast. With a muffled sound, Old Man Ming Gang's aura was hit by Long Da's demonic power. He spat out a mouthful of blood and revealed a shocked expression. He had never expected that this young man had a rank 7 demonic beast with him. Otherwise, he would not have been so careless. No matter how strong the second heaven martial emperor's aura was, it was impossible for him to collide with the demonic power of a rank 7 demonic beast. Moreover, one was defenseless, and the other was intentional. Under one attack, Old Man Ming Tsang suffered a huge loss. Even if you want to die, you still have to look at the place. At least see who your opponent is. Long Da said coldly. He was a level 1 rank 7 demonic beast. When facing a second heaven martial emperor, or even a first heaven martial emperor, he would feel fear. He had always been unhappy. Now that he had injured Old Man Ming Tsang, the pressure in his heart was released. Not bad, so you're a sacred array master. Shun Tianzhou was also shocked by the sudden change. However, it seemed that this young man was not with the House of Storms. Otherwise, the situation would be even worse. The attack just now also proved the strength of this young man. Only a mysterious holy array master would have a 7th-tier demonic beast protecting him. Otherwise, he would not have been able to reveal the origin of the array altar earlier. Coupled with Long Da's attack, he had also associated Li Lingtian with a holy array master. Let's make our move. If we wait any longer, this array altar will be activated. When the world-crossing array is formed, we will all have to stay here. Li Lingtian was not pleased by Shun Tianzhou's praise. This was because the array altar had already loosened up. If they were to delay any longer, they would all be doomed. Alright, let's all do it. Otherwise, we'll all be finished. Shun Tianzhou shouted at the Inspiration City powerhouse behind him. After that, he looked at Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian nodded as well. He then waved at Long Da before he retreated. Long Da's body flashed forward and he charged at Old Man Mingcang. Chapter 366, Chapter 366, Fighting the Martial Emperor. Chapter 366, Fighting the Martial Emperor. Seeing Long Dachao attack a martial monarch realm expert, Shun Tianzhou did not hesitate to attack Old Man Mingxiao. He understood the situation at this moment. If he hesitated for a moment, he would be safe. Moreover, this young man was helping him and was temporarily on his side. Boom! Suddenly, Long Da and the old man, Shun Tianzhou and Old Man Xiao, the 4 martial monarch realm experts, started fighting. The 3 9th-level Supreme Realm experts attacked the 9 Supreme Realm experts who were breaking the array. At that time, the attacks of the martial honors were neutralized by Old Man Ming Xiao and Old Man Ming Cang. They were 2nd Heaven Martial Emperor Realm super experts with terrifying strength. They could easily face the attacks of the 7th Order demonic beasts and Shun Tianzhou. Rumble! Rumble! Hundreds of martial honors and martial emperors attacked with devastating attacks, causing the square to tremble. The 9 powerful 9th-level Supreme Realm experts waved their hands even faster, and the blood clouds on the array altar became even denser. Shun Tianzhou's expression changed drastically. If this continued, the array altar would be activated. When the realm-crossing array was formed and the experts of the House of Storms arrived, the Queen's palace would be finished. However, his strength as a peak 1st Heaven Martial Emperor could only withstand Old Man Ming Xiao's attack. 1 heaven, 1 world. It was more appropriate to describe a martial emperor. Even though he was the son-in-law of the Queen's palace and a powerhouse at the peak of the 1st heaven, he was completely different from a 2nd Heaven Martial Emperor. If not for the powerful weapons of the Queen's palace, he would not be a match for Elder Xiao at all. Li Lingtian's heart trembled. The strength of a martial emperor powerhouse was much stronger than he had imagined. Moreover, the cultivation levels between powerhouses were extremely strict. There was only 1 step between the two, but the gap between them was so great. Not good. Li Lingtian's gaze fell on the array altar. He exclaimed when he saw the blood cloud above the array altar. That was because the array altar was about to open. It was too late to stop it. Moreover, 9 9th-level Supreme Realm experts were opening the array altar. Even he might not be able to stop them. There was nothing he could do now. Sure enough, when he cried out in surprise, the array altar exploded. The 9 9th Heaven revered martial artists spat out a mouthful of blood as they were all sent flying. A destructive pressure swept in all directions. Even the martial emperor powerhouse spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was sent flying and he was sent flying upwards. All the powerhouses were sent flying by the pressure. Li Lingtian had long noticed the situation in the array altar and was prepared for it. He activated the true dragon body barrier and the shield of earth. However, he was still shocked by the situation. His body followed the pressure and soared into the sky. Instantly, the lake water was also washed up into the clouds. When the experts waiting outside saw this, their expressions changed. The lake within a radius of 10 miles disappeared in the blink of an eye, and the lake water was also scattered by the destructive power. The peak of the mountain was also flattened, and countless experts died in an instant. Only hundreds of revered martial artists and a small number of experts from the Queen's palace survived. Many of the other experts also died and quickly fled into the distance. In the sky, countless experts flashed and finally floated steadily in the air, resisting the pressure and the tearing of the wind. A moment later, the space stabilized and the boundless heaven mountain disappeared. A tall array altar appeared on the ground and a mysterious power was emitted. The ninth heaven revered martial artists, as well as Old Man Mingxiao and Old Man Mingcong, were all looking at the array altar excitedly. They completely ignored Shen Tianzhou's shock. Long De came to Li Lingtian's side as well. Countless powerhouses were shocked by the sudden turn of events. They did not know what was happening below to cause such a huge commotion. However, they did not see any legendary treasures. This puzzled countless experts. Swoosh! The House of Storms has activated the cross-realm formation to attack the Queen's palace. Shen Tianzhou's body flashed strangely and he quickly flew towards Lingyun City. While he was escaping, he shouted loudly so that he could warn all the experts of Lingyun City. It's not that easy to leave. Seeing Shen Tianzhou escape, Old Man Mingxiao immediately circulated his Jin Yuan and launched a destructive attack. He also shot forward and arrived in front of Shen Tianzhou in an instant. Rumble! The destructive attack landed on Shen Tianzhou. His body trembled and he fell down rapidly. At this moment, Old Man Mingxiao slapped Shen Tianzhou's chest. Shen Tianzhou was sent flying back to the boundless heaven mountain. However, he was severely injured and couldn't fight back. The two martial monarch realm experts attacked Shen Tianzhou from the front and back. The space trembled and tore under the destructive attacks of the two martial monarch realm experts. If they didn't take the opportunity to kill Shen Tianzhou, the House of Storms would have another powerful opponent. They wouldn't let go of such an opportunity. Li Lingtian hesitated when he saw the situation. If he were to make a move, his identity would be exposed and he would no longer be able to stay in Spirituality City. Moreover, the situation in front of him was not good for him. If he attacked and was attacked by two martial monarch realm experts, he would not be a god and would definitely not be a match for a martial monarch realm expert. Besides, the cross-realm formation had already been activated. The super experts of the House of Storms would appear soon. He was courting death. However, Shen Tianzhou was Shen Mei'er's father. Although Shen Tianzhou didn't know his identity, Shen Mei'er must be very sad to know that her father had died. Hey! You stall Old Man Mingxiao, I'll deal with Old Man Mingcong. Let's end this quickly. Li Lingtian sighed. There was nothing wrong with men. Since he had encountered Shen Tianzhou, he would not be able to rest easy if he just watched Shen Tianzhou get killed. After saying that, he glanced at Long De and flew toward Old Man Mingcong in a flash. The thunderclap wings appeared on his shoulder and he disappeared in an instant. Spatial imprisonment. Ice, fire, 9 heavens, extinction. He disappeared and reappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of Shen Tianzhou. He used his divine sense to summon the space banner. He waved his hand and cast a spell, sealing the space for a short time. In that moment of pause, Li Lingtian grabbed Shen Tianzhou and disappeared. He had already escaped the two martial supremes' attack range. The moment his body appeared, he used the ice, fire, 9 heavens. The third heaven, extermination, and the pillar of light with the aura of extermination ruthlessly bombarded Old Man Mingcong. Shen Tianzhou was also stunned by this scene. He did not expect to be injured when he tried to escape. He was also shocked by the strength of a second heaven martial emperor. Under the two attacks, he almost died. Fortunately, his powerful martial monarch realm defense did not kill him. However, he did not have the slightest strength to fight back. Even if he was at his peak, he would not be able to withstand the combined attack of two martial monarch realm experts. Just when he was about to die, he never expected that the white-robed young man would appear and capture him. This was completely beyond his expectations. It was the first time he had met someone like this in the divine martial continent. Moreover, he had easily rescued her from the hands of two martial monarch realm experts without anyone noticing. When he saw the destructive pillar of light heading towards Old Man Mingtsang, he was also shocked. This first-level Martial Supreme Realm Sacred Array Master actually had such a destructive heaven-rank superpower. Rumble. With a shocking explosion, a halo appeared. Wherever the halo passed, it destroyed everything. Countless experts below the Martial Emperor realm were killed instantly. Old Man Mingtsang was caught off guard and spat out a mouthful of blood. Li Lingtian's sudden appearance caught them off guard. They were furious that Shun Tianzhou, who they thought could be killed in one strike, had been rescued. You go back first. I'll stop the two of them. Li Lingtian threw Shun Tianzhou out like trash with one hand. This time, Shun Tianzhou was thrown 10 miles away. Shun Tianzhou's injuries were already severe, so he was immediately disoriented. What the fuck are you guys still standing there for? Are you watching me play monkey tricks? Li Lingtian looked at the three Ninth Heaven Supreme Realm powerhouses, the Queen's Palace's Supreme Realm experts and disciples. He let out a roar and was stunned. Do it. Ping Hao was stunned when he heard Li Lingtian's scolding. He was extremely displeased that a First Heaven Martial honored warrior had dared to fuck them like that. However, he did not dare to say anything when he saw Li Lingtian save Shun Tianzhou from two Martial Supreme Realm warriors. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had a Tier 7 mystical beast as his guardian. They would not dare to provoke him. Then, with a wave of his hand, hundreds of Supreme Realm experts and countless experts quickly bombarded the two Martial Monarch Realm experts. In an instant, Old Man Ming Xiao was entangled by Long De while Li Lingtian and Old Man Ming Tsang were locked in a standoff. By then, the other 9 Ninth Heaven revered martial artists and the other powerhouses would be engaged in a fierce battle. Junior, how dare you interfere in the affairs of the House of Storms? You're dead. Old Man Ming Tsang wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his hand as he spoke with a sinister expression. He hated this young man to the bone. He was the one who had broken the formation altar. Now, he had saved Shun Tianzhou and injured him. How could he tolerate such hatred? You motherfucker, are you an idiot? Kanglan building is nothing. I can wipe out your Kanglan building with a raise of my hand. Li Lingtian said coldly as he circulated his quintessential essence. With a wave of his hands, his aura soared to its peak. The Tianyu sword appeared in his hand. His entire person emitted a destructive sword intent that wreaked havoc in the space. The pressure of the Tianyu sword burst out, instantly stunning all the powerhouses. Saint Artifact. Super Saint Weapon. Old Man Ming Tsang was experienced. He felt the destructive pressure in the air. This was the pressure of a Saint Artifact, and it was the pressure of a Supreme Saint Artifact. The other experts were directly affected by this pressure and felt endless pressure. The expression on his face changed drastically. He had never thought that this young man would have a peerless Saint Artifact. All of a sudden, all the experts stopped and retreated. When immortals fought, mortals suffered. When a Martial Supreme used a Saint weapon to fight a Martial Supreme, they would not be able to withstand such power. Chapter 367, Chapter 367, Robbing a Martial Emperor, 1. Chapter 367, Robbing a Martial Emperor, 1. Saint Artifact, I like it. Old Man Mingtsang was shocked when he saw the Saint weapon in Li Lingtian's hand. Greed was written all over his face as he was only holding a celestial weapon. If he could get his hands on this peerless Saint weapon, his strength would soar by a large margin. He would be able to kill a Third Heaven Martial Emperor powerhouse by surprise. The young man in front of him was only a Supreme Realm expert. Although his strength was not bad and he had the help of a demonic beast, he was a dignified Martial Emperor. As long as he was careful, he could eliminate him. The Saint weapon was not even his. I can only be shameless to you. Who the F***ck doesn't like Saint weapons? Don't tell me you're the only motherf***ker who doesn't like holy artifacts? Li Lingtian's face immediately revealed a look of disdain. He was still greedy for the holy weapon in his hand at this point in time. What a piece of trash. With that said, His sword will surged and the air between heaven and earth shattered continuously. Sword howl, heaven and earth. Li Lingtian looked at the Tianyu's sword with a serious gaze before he swung it out casually. There was no pattern to it, as if it was a casual move without any form of movement. Countless powerhouses in the sky were puzzled by Li Lingtian's casual attack. Such an attack was not a move at all. Even if he used a saint weapon, without the coordination of a skill, he could still unleash powerful power. If he wanted to deal with a martial monarch realm expert like this, wasn't he courting death? However, such a casual wave of his hand caused the martial emperor, Old Man Song, to become terrified as if he had seen a ghost. This was because this attack was like the might of heaven, and it had an unstoppable trajectory. Force, sword force. Sword force, it's actually sword force. Old Man Ming Tsang and the other supreme martial honors were shocked when they saw Li Lingtian's light strike. They did not expect the young man to have mastered force, and it was a sharp sword force. He had mastered the force and the saint weapon. When the sword force and the saint weapon combined, he was no longer a simple martial honor. He was a terrifying super expert. Sword force. Sword force. Could it be that his Li Lingtian? Eliminate Li Lingtian from the Dishi family. Li Lingtian is the only one who has mastered the sword force. Why is he here? It really is a sword aura. That's right. This person is Li Lingtian. Countless powerhouses were shocked. While they were shocked, Li Lingtian's expression remained calm as he looked at Old Man Ming Tsang with an emotionless expression. However, Old Man Ming Tsang's expression kept changing. Under the attack of the sword aura, its speed was so fast that it caught people off guard. It was already impossible to use an attack. Even a martial emperor powerhouse would not have the time to use his attacks to block it. The only thing he could do was to use his defense to take it head-on. The fall of the cloud river, the heavens and the earth. Seeing such a sword aura, Old Man Ming Tsang could only admit that he was unlucky. If he wanted to dodge, that would be something a fool would do. This was because in the face of aura, one could not dodge. The true essence in his entire body reversed and he cast the strongest forbidden technique of his martial emperor. Instantly, strange ripples appeared around Old Man Ming Tsang, and the area within 10 meters became his world. The truth of heaven and earth. There was another wave of exclamations. Countless powerhouses had seen through the truth of heaven and earth used by the martial emperor powerhouse. In front of Shi, only the truth of heaven and earth could compete. He did not expect a martial honor to force a martial emperor to use the defense of the truth of the world. Even if a martial honor failed, it was still an honor. After all, he forced a martial emperor to use the truth of the world. Hiss. Rumble. The sound of a rag being torn apart rang out. The sword ray streaked across the air like lightning and landed on Old Man Ming Tsang's defense without any trace. Following that, Old Man Ming Tsang's defense trembled and then exploded, but the sword light was also neutralized. Hush! Old Man Ming Tsang heaved a sigh of relief. He was extremely shocked. His defense, which was like the truth of heaven and earth, had been broken just like that. The other party was only a supreme realm expert. If his cultivation was a little higher, he would be dead for sure. The power of a saint artifact and sword aura could not be ignored. There was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth, and his face was pale. This was the first time he had been injured by a martial honor. Li Lingtian's expression was calm, but he was shocked deep down. A martial emperor powerhouse was indeed powerful. Even his saint weapon and sword force could not kill him. In fact, they could only break through his defense. His cultivation was still too weak. If a martial emperor powerhouse were to use this move along with the saint weapon, Old Man Ming Tsang would have vanished into thin air long ago. What a terrifying sword aura! What a terrifying saint artifact! He even broke through the martial emperor's defense. Are Supreme Realm experts really that powerful? His name is Li Lingtian, the man who killed a 7th Heaven Supreme Realm expert in seconds when he was a martial emperor. He's also the powerhouse who wiped out the Dishi family. He should still have a destructive desolation 10 consecutive slashes. That's right. He hasn't used his desolate 10 consecutive strikes yet, and he hasn't used the myriad returning swords yet. I wonder which is stronger, the power of these two moves or a martial emperor powerhouse. Countless experts were shocked when they saw the power of this move. What left Li Lingtian speechless was that all of his moves were known by others, including all the warriors in the Azure continent. How was he going to play in the future? It was not easy to be a celebrity. Because all of his moves had been remembered by others, and he had wiped out the Dishi family, which shocked the entire Azure continent. Saint Artifact, do you still want it? But you can only dream about getting the Saint Artifact. Even if I don't use this Saint Artifact, I'll still beat you until your mother can't recognize you. Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness and the Tianyu sword transformed into a stream of light that entered his glabella. The aura around his body slowly rose. He used the true dragon body barrier and the shocking dragon energy protected him. His expression was calm as he looked at Old Man Mingtsang coldly. His divine sense locked onto Old Man Mingtsang. As long as he made a move, he would launch a shocking destructive attack. Countless experts retreated far away. Even the 9 Super 9th Heaven Martial Honored Warriors and the 3 9th Heaven Martial Honored Warriors of the Queen's Palace retreated. In the middle were Li Lingtian, Old Man Mingtsang, Long De, and Old Man Mingshao. Upon hearing Li Lingtian's mocking of a martial emperor powerhouse, they were both speechless and jealous. To be able to insult a martial emperor in front of a martial emperor powerhouse like this, he was a unique existence in the Azure continent. However, when they thought of Li Lingtian's strength, they dared not treat him as a martial honor anymore. If they did, they would be courting death. You're Li Lingtian. To the surprise of countless powerhouses, Old Man Mingtsang did not intend to make a move. Instead, he asked Li Lingtian. Elder Mingtsang had been cultivating in seclusion and was unaware of Li Lingtian's deeds. However, he had no choice but to take this revered martial artist seriously when he saw the other powerhouses being shocked by Li Lingtian's existence, the sacred weapon, and the sword force. That's right. I'm Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian said calmly. He was stunned. Could this old monster be up to something? Stop! Old Man Mingtsang shouted at Old Man Mingshao. Immediately, after an explosion, Long De and Old Man Mingshao separated. No one knew what Old Man Mingtsang was planning. Aren't you going to fight? Li Lingtian's tone was calm but he was feeling nervous as well. The fluctuation on the array altar below was getting stronger. The other side of the transboundary array must have received the message that the powerhouses were coming soon. You go. It's still too early for you and my House of Storms. If you want to kill the two of us, you have at most a 50% chance. I have a 70% chance of killing you. I don't want to take advantage of others when they are in danger. Once the matter with the Queen's Palace is resolved, someone will naturally come to find you. Elder Mingtsang shouted as he looked at the array altar before turning to Li Lingtian. This young man was terrifyingly powerful but it would not be easy for him to kill him. At this time, the Queen's Palace and the House of Storms were very important. They must not make any mistakes. Is that so? Try my myriad returning swords and desolate 10 consecutive slashes first. Is it that easy to send me away like this? With a faint smile on his face, Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness and the heavenly fault sword appeared in front of him. The heavenly fault sword spun continuously as waves of saint weapons pressure burst forth. The air began to spin, and the entire space seemed to have become a vortex. A terrifying sword will dispersed. Li Lingtian extended his hand and a ball of light appeared in his hand. The ball of light was filled with countless exquisite little swords. All the powerhouses were rendered speechless by the conversation between Li Lingtian and Old Man Mingtsang. A martial honor was facing two martial emperors. The martial emperors had asked for the martial honor to leave, yet the martial honor had ignored them. Was this world crazy? Or was this world upside down? What do you want? Old man Mingtsang looked at Li Lingtian's eyes, which were focused on the array altar. Coupled with the sword intent and the injured ball of light around Li Lingtian, he felt a tingling sensation in his heart. Not only was this young man terrifyingly powerful, but he could also be a terrifying holy array master. If he used some kind of array to destroy the array altar, not only would the cross-realm array fail, but it would also destroy the experts of the House of Storms. I need 10 6th grade inner cores for 3 seconds. Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face as the light orb in his hand grew even more violent. The sword will wreak havoc and the space was a terrifying sight. Hush! All the powerhouses were stunned and terrified. To think that a martial-honored realm expert would actually rob a martial emperor realm expert at this moment. He had never heard of a revered martial artist threatening a martial emperor, but now, this place had appeared. Comparing people was infuriating. In the past, it was always Wu Zun who fled far away after seeing the martial emperor. Now, a martial emperor was being threatened and robbed by a martial honor in front of him. The situation was different from person to person, and the difference was so big. Alright, 10 tier 6 inner cores. Get lost. Old man Mingtsang and old man Ming Xiao were enraged. They exchanged a glance and took out the tier 6 monster beast inner cores from their respective storage pouches. They gathered 10 inner cores and threw them at Li Lingtian. Being robbed in front of the whole world like this was really f***ing embarrassing. After handing the inner core to Li Lingtian, he roared loudly with a twisted expression on his face. If it were not for the House of Storms, he would not have agreed to it and would have torn this young man apart. Chapter 368, Chapter 368, Queen's Palace, 1. Chapter 368, Queen's Palace, 1. Li Lingtian did not leave after old man Mingtsang gave him the inner core. You want me to scram? With a wave of his hand, Li Lingtian put away the heavenly fault sword and the ball of light. His entire body's vital essence burst forth and with a flick of his fingers, a heavenly might appeared in the sky. Rumble. A series of explosions sounded as countless bolts of lightning struck down. The entire area within a radius of 100 miles became the center of destruction. Li Lingtian's body flashed as well as he quickly flew into the distance. Screams and roars could be heard from behind him. Countless experts were instantly killed, and the sky above the array altar was bombarded with endless destruction. This was also the divine ability of the heavenly tribulation that he cultivated. Since he was scolded, he had to pay the price. A series of explosions rang out as old man Mingtsang and old man Ming Xiao continued to use shocking defenses to block the wrath of the gods from the heavens so that the array altar would not be affected. He was already furious, but he could not spare any time to chase after Li Lingtian. Feeling the destructive heavenly might, the two powerful martial monarch realm experts were extremely shocked. How did this martial honor realm expert know so many terrifying divine powers? In a short while, Li Lingtian had already arrived outside the city gates. However, the entire spirituality city was shrouded by a series of shocking arrays. The city's defensive array was activated. Countless experts stood on the city wall and looked outside. Countless martial artists who had not entered the city began to curse loudly. However, the city gates were tightly shut and the city array was activated. It would not be opened at all. The experts of the House of Storms had arrived. The Queen's Palace had to resist the experts of the House of Storms with all their might. Naturally, the city gate could not be opened. Li Lingtian was shocked when he saw the defense before him. He did not expect the Queen's Palace to have such a powerful defense. Immediately, Li Lingtian's body flashed as he quickly left Spirituality City and flew toward the other side of Spirituality City. It would take some time to break through the array and enter this place. By the time he broke through the array, the experts of the House of Storms would have arrived. Whoosh! He flew into the distance. Just as he left, a shocking light appeared thousands of miles away from Spirituality City. The light soared into the sky for a long time, and the entire ground trembled. At this moment, a red web-like crack that was 5 kilometers wide appeared in the sky, and more than 10 martial monarch realm experts appeared in the sky at the same time. More than 10 martial emperor powerhouses were floating in the air as they looked at Spirituality City excitedly. World crossing formation. Martial Emperor has crossed over. This is a martial emperor powerhouse from the House of Storms. On the city wall of Spirituality City, countless experts looked at everything in the sky and were shocked. It was the first time they saw a martial emperor cross over. The power in the sky was shocking. Moreover, there were 16 martial monarch realm experts this time, and each of them had terrifying strength. Now, everyone knew that what was happening at Boundless Heaven Mountain was not the birth of a treasure, but the core of the array that the House of Storms had used to create the Cross-Realm Array. Now that the Cross-Realm formation had been formed, 16 martial monarch realm experts had crossed over and appeared in the Queen's Palace's territory, Lingyun City. The powerhouses from Spirit Resonance City looked at the 16 martial emperors who had crossed over. Including Old Man Shao, there were a total of 18 martial emperors. Even the Queen's Palace might not be able to deal with such a lineup. If that was the case, then Spirituality City would be majestic. In the depths of Spirituality City, there was a palace filled with spiritual energy. The entire palace occupied a total of 2,000 miles of Spirituality City. The palace was surrounded by tall city walls. Experts patrolled in the dark. It was as strict as a palace. Moreover, there were countless restriction arrays around the palace. It was difficult for outsiders to enter. Even if they did, they would be instantly killed. This was the awe-inspiring Queen's Palace. In the main palace hall of the Queen's Palace, countless super experts had already gathered. The powerhouses who could come here were all at the Martial Emperor realm. Other than a few Ninth Heaven martial honored powerhouses and some relatives of the Queen's Palace, no one else was qualified to come here. Because the Queen's Palace was facing destruction, all the higher-ups were discussing matters here. Even the other 9th-level martial honors and some martial honors of the Queen's Palace were not qualified to participate. In the palace, a beautiful woman was sitting on a throne. A luxurious crown symbolized royalty. The woman looked to be in her 30s, and she was born with a myriad of magnificence. At her peak, she carried a supreme might. She was Queen Shunyu of the Queen Palace, a super powerhouse at the 4th level of the Martial Emperor realm. There were 7 to 8 Martial Emperor experts on both sides of the palace. There were also some important figures inside. Shun Tianzhou was among them, but he was severely injured. Your Majesty, that's what happened. If it wasn't for that young man, I would have died under the joint attack of Old Man Ming Tsang and Old Man Ming Xiao. Shun Tianzhou told them about the situation at Boundless Heaven Mountain. The martial emperor powerhouses were shocked when they heard what Shun Tianzhou said. The one who was most shocked was a young girl sitting in the lower part of the palace. The young girl's charm was peerless and could topple cities. There was a hint of charm between her eyebrows, but her small face was extremely pure. He didn't care about anything at first, but after hearing Shun Tianzhou's words, he couldn't calm down anymore. If Li Lingtian was here, he would have recognized her at a glance. She was the Queen's Palace's little princess, Shun Mei. However, the current Shun Mei was different from before. She had the temperament of Queen Shunyu, the aura of a superior. Moreover, his cultivation was no longer a warrior spirit, but a powerful martial emperor. You said that the young man is only a first-level supreme realm expert, but he has the strength to make a martial emperor fear him. He also has a 7th-tier shape-shifting demonic beast. Shun Yu said lightly, looking at Shun Tianzhou with a sharp gaze. Although they were husband and wife, as the queen, she had a superior attitude. She had developed the aura and habits of a superior. That's right. He should be a sacred array master and has a spatial treasure. After saving me, he threw me away. I don't know what happened after that. When Shun Tianzhou said that he was thrown out, he couldn't bring himself to say it. He was a martial emperor, but he was thrown out by a first-level martial honored realm martial artist. It was really embarrassing to say it. I already know who he is. When Shun Yu spoke, he looked at Shun Mei, intentionally or unintentionally, but his expression didn't change at all. She was like a high and mighty queen, as if there was no kinship in her heart. He retracted his gaze and said indifferently, "The House of Storms has used the world-crossing formation to come here. It's obvious that they want to deal with the Queen's palace. This time, they want to wipe out the Queen's palace and dominate the Azure continent. 11. All of you must fight against the experts of the House of Storms with 120% of your strength and strive to get through this difficult time." Empress Shun Yu's tone was cold, and there was no room for resistance. The martial monarch realm experts below could only listen carefully. Facing such a powerful queen, he was already used to Shun Yu's power. All the powerhouses rushed towards the city wall. The powerhouses from House of Storms had crossed the border and were naturally targeting the Queen's palace. They had to protect the array when the martial emperor powerhouses attacked and broke the array. In a separate palace in the Queen's palace, Shun Mei's face was calm, but her heart was in turmoil. She could not think of anyone else other than Li Lingtian, who was the white-robed young man her father was talking about. Moreover, the entire Tsang continent was abuzz with rumors about Li Lingtian. He was a martial emperor, and he had caused a huge commotion at the wedding of Dishi family and Tuoba family. He had killed a 7th-level martial honored realm warrior with one move. In the end, Tuoba family and Dishi family killed him with the Heaven and Earth 5 Elements Jade, but somehow, he managed to break away from the Tuoba family and Dishi family and became a martial honored realm warrior. He wiped out the Dishi family and shocked the Azure continent. In a fit of anger, he destroyed the Emperor's family for a beauty. Now that she had arrived at Spirituality City, she knew that Li Lingtian had come to Spirituality City for her sake and had saved her father for her. As she thought about it, crystal tears fell from her small face. She also knew that a heaven-defying monster like Li Lingtian must have more than one woman. For a favored son like him, there was no girl in the world who would not fall for him. However, he could fight all over the world for the woman he loved and provoke a heaven-defying family. However, she was the little princess of the Queen's palace and had to inherit the Queen's palace. Furthermore, the husband of the Queen's palace had to change his surname and marry into the Queen's palace. She knew that Li Lingtian would not behave like that, so she was conflicted. Li Lingtian came to another side of Spirituality City and watched as countless powerhouses guarded the city walls. He was scheming in his heart. His aura disappeared and he entered the ground. He used his Earth Marshal's soul and arrived below the city wall in the blink of an eye. Below the city wall, there was also a powerful restriction array. It was impossible to sneak in from below the city wall. Then, spells were cast one after another, and the divine array diagram was also cast. After a full 10 minutes, Li Lingtian silently entered the array formation and entered the city wall alone. When they left the city wall, they had already entered the city. With a faint smile on his face, he subconsciously patted his body and felt that there was a lot of dust. Li Lingtian's heart sank when he saw the countless powerhouses in the city in panic. A battle between superpowers would lead to destruction. If the Queen's palace could not hold on, they would be destroyed by the House of Storms and the Queen's palace would become history. He was puzzled. The Queen's palace, the Wind Moon Palace, and the House of Storms had existed in the Azure continent for tens of thousands of years. If they had not fought in the past, why would they fight now? For the Queen's palace to be able to stand firm in the Azure continent for tens of thousands of years without being defeated, there must have been many battles between the three super forces. For them to be able to stand firm in such a battle, they must have a strong foundation. Under such circumstances, there must be some unspeakable secret between the Kanglan building and the Queen's palace. Just like the marriage between Dishi family and Tuoba family, the ultimate goal was to open the ancient battlefield. Could it be that the House of Storms had something against the Queen's palace? Or could it be that the Queen's palace had some treasures that the House of Storms needed? As Li Lingtian thought about it, he walked toward the inn he was staying at. P.S. I recommend a good friend's work, the Mrs. Top Expert. Chapter 369, Array Dao Battle, 1. Chapter 369, Array Dao Battle, 1. When he returned to the inn, Huangfu Yuyan and Qingling were waiting anxiously. They also knew that something shocking had happened outside. The Kanglan building had attacked the Queen's palace. The city gates of Spirituality City were closed and the defense array was activated. However, Li Lingtian had yet to return. How could they not be worried? Nonetheless, the two ladies were overjoyed to see Li Lingtian return safely. "Young master, did you see the House of Storms attacking the Queen's palace?" Qingling asked curiously. They had only heard what the other warriors said in the inn and had never left the inn. They were also very curious about what was happening outside. Huangfu Yuyan looked at Li Lingtian curiously. "Yes, that's right. The House of Storms did attack the Queen's palace. There are no treasures on the boundless Heaven Mountain. It's just a commotion caused by the House of Storms building the World Crossing Formation. I also met 2 martial monarch realm experts from the House of Storms. After a great battle, I obtained 10 6-tier inner cores." Li Lingtian chuckled as he took out 10 tier 6 inner cores. If such inner cores were to be used on the war god, they would definitely be a force to be reckoned with. "You fought against the martial monarch realm expert. How's the situation?" Huangfu Yuyan was shocked when she heard that Li Lingtian was able to return safely from his battle with a martial supreme and that he had obtained 10 tier 6 inner cores. As a martial saint, she naturally understood the difference between a martial supreme and a martial honor. The higher the cultivation level, the greater the difference between the two. The difference between a martial emperor and a supreme was huge. The difference between a martial emperor and a martial saint was completely different. As for a martial saint and a martial god, there was nothing to compare. "That's right. Since the other party's realm crossing formation was formed, I wasn't confident that I could kill the 2 martial monarch realm experts. The other party didn't want to tangle with me either, so he gave me 10 inner cores and I left Boundless Heaven Mountain." 11, Li Lingtian said indifferently. He did not take his battle with the martial emperor seriously at all. However, he was shocked by the cultivation and strength of a martial monarch realm expert. If he encountered a martial monarch realm expert alone, he might have a chance to escape. However, in the face of a battle between martial monarch realm experts, he might be killed instantly if he was not careful. The two girls looked at Li Lingtian and knew that things were not as simple as they thought. The battle between martial emperors was not as easy as it sounded. "Do you have any plans for the battle at the Queen's palace?" Huangfu Yuyan pondered for a moment. Although she was on good terms with Li Lingtian and was treated as his maid, she knew that he was joking. Naturally, she was concerned about Li Lingtian's affairs. When they fight, one of them will lose. Even if the winner wins, it will be a miserable victory. I don't want to interfere in the affairs between the House of Storms and the Queen's palace. However, you can't touch my bottom line. Besides, I have some grudges with the House of Storms. All the martial emperor powerhouses who came here must stay. Li Lingtian spoke in a relaxed manner. Qingling did not know Li Lingtian's background, but Huangfu Yuyan did. She knew that Li Lingtian had the war god and the gorilla demon. As long as they did not encounter a martial god powerhouse, no one would be able to withstand the gorilla demon's destructive attacks. However, she knew that every time the gorilla demon attacked, some of its demonic power would be consumed. There are many martial saints who seal their cultivation base and travel around the divine martial continent in order to train their mental state. If you encounter a martial saint by accident, you will be finished. Huangfu Yuyan nodded. Li Lingtian had his own principles and it was not her place to stop him. Furthermore, their relationship was rather ambiguous. She understood that even if she was Li Lingtian's woman, she could only silently support him. Following that, Li Lingtian and the others cultivated in the inn while the others continued to relay the news to him. In the House of Storms, experts constantly crossed over. Other than martial emperors, there were also martial honors and martial emperors. There were 3,000 martial emperors and 1,000 martial honors. Moreover, these martial honors and martial emperors were all super experts. There were also 25 martial emperor powerhouses. Such a lineup could completely wipe out the Queen's palace. However, the experts of the House of Storms did not start to attack. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. The spirituality city was surrounded by countless experts. As long as a place was destroyed, it would be attacked by the experts of the House of Storms. The Queen's palace did not move at all. They only mobilized countless super experts to guard the array on the city wall. As the days passed, more and more experts came from the House of Storms. What puzzled Spirit Rhyme City was that besides the experts from the House of Storms, there were also experts from other forces who had joined the House of Storms. They were completely trying to wipe out the Queen's palace. Rumble. On this day, a shocking explosion shook the entire Spirit Rhyme City. All the experts were shocked. The 9 ninth-level Supreme Realm Array Masters of the House of Storms had established a powerful array. The attack from the array formation carried the power to destroy the world. This power directly bombarded the defense array of Spirituality City. The defensive formation trembled and quickly blocked this attack. The formation returned to its previous appearance. Boom! With another explosion, the shocking light bombarded the array. At the same time that the light bombarded the array, the 9 supreme martial artists inside the city wall also cast a spell and entered the array. In an instant, the 9 super array masters clashed. The array masters of the Queen's palace blocked the attacks and maintained the defensive array while the experts of the House of Storms attacked the defensive array. The earth-shattering explosions continued, and seconds passed. Destruction always held the advantage. Soon, the array formation began to tremble. Countless super experts in the city saw the trembling of the array and became worried. If the array was broken, tens of millions of cultivators in Spirit Rhyme City would be destroyed. Some martial supremes and martial emperors had already begun to prepare for a great battle when they saw the array trembling. At this moment, a faint voice came from the sky. The 9 palaces are the heavens and the earth, and the 8 trigrams are the myriad phenomena. Defense is always a failure. Only by using offense instead of defense, combining offense and defense, can a true defensive formation be formed. The voice was calm and ethereal. When this voice reached the ears of all the warriors, they were all puzzled and curious. To be able to use voice to spread hundreds of miles, his cultivation must not be simple. Countless powerhouses were puzzled, but when the 9 ninth heaven revered realm array masters in the city heard this voice, their expressions changed drastically and they immediately became excited. The world is in chaos. The 5 elements are the foundation, and the 4 elements are the 10,000 realms. The beginning of the infinite, the myriad of illusions. Lingshao Peak, destroy. In the air, that ethereal voice appeared word by word. No martial artists could understand it, only a few super array masters were mesmerized by it. The spells in their hands had also completely deviated from the normal ones at the beginning. However, in the face of the array attack of the House of Storms, the array became as stable as an iron bucket and did not even tremble. At this moment, the 9 array masters had solemn expressions on their faces. They cast a spell and instantly, the spells of the 9 supreme array masters fused together. As the 9 spells fused, a colorful light immediately appeared on the defensive array. Instantly, countless spiritual chi of heaven and earth gathered and formed into twisted lines. In an instant, the defensive formation completely formed a colorful light. At this moment, the light from the House of Storms hit the defense array of Spirit Rhyme City. Boom! With an explosion, the light entered the defensive array. In an instant, the defensive array swallowed this light. Then, a destructive attack exploded outwards. This destructive attack was the light from the House of Storms just now. The power of the light was countless times stronger when it returned than when it came. Boom! Ah, ah! The destructive light was counterattacked, and its power increased by countless times. For a moment, the experts of the House of Storms were not prepared at all and were bombarded by their own light. Countless experts were instantly turned into ashes. Even many Supreme Realm experts were killed. Two martial emperors became the targets of the attack. Both martial emperors spat out a mouthful of blood. Their faces were extremely pale. They could not use their true energy for the time being. Hush! The tens of millions of warriors in Spirit Rhyme City were shocked when they saw this ending. The experts of the House of Storms outside were also extremely shocked. They did not expect such a change to happen. Boom! Another shocking ray of light bombarded the defensive array. Similarly, this ray of light was devoured and returned in the blink of an eye. The power it released was even stronger. Although they were prepared, such a destructive attack still injured countless experts of the House of Storms. The 9 super array masters realized that something was wrong and quickly stopped. If this was the case, the Kanglan house would only be injured. It wouldn't be long before the defense array of Spirit Rhyme City was not broken. Instead, it killed all of their people. In the city, countless experts were stunned by this scene and once again recognized the power of array masters. He was also shocked by the voice in the dark. He did not know who it was. He actually had such a powerful array cultivation. With just a few words, he could unleash such heaven-defying power. To be able to turn the tables with just a few words, such a person was definitely not an ordinary person. The 9 array masters were also seriously comprehending the few sentences of the array Tao. In the eyes of the array masters, those few sentences were supreme holy scriptures. Although they were excited, they did not dare to act rashly because there were countless super experts outside. If they were careless, the array would be broken and Spirit City would be exposed to the destructive attacks of countless super experts. Which expert is it? Please come out for a chat. The 9 super revered array masters of the House of Storms shouted. They also realized that there must be a super array master in Spirit Rhyme City. Otherwise, such a thing would not have happened. After shouting, all the experts became silent. The tens of thousands of experts in Kanglan Tower were silent. The tens of thousands of warriors in the city were also silent. They all wanted to know who this mysterious person was. Chapter 370, Queen Shanyu. Chapter 370, Queen Shanyu. Have you forgotten me so quickly? It seems that I didn't teach you a lesson. You guys don't remember. That faint voice rang out. When the voice fell, a white-robed young man was already floating in the air above the defense array of Spirituality City. His white clothes fluttered in the wind, and his entire person was extremely carefree. His powerful array Tao cultivation and elegant figure made countless experts admire him. However, what shocked countless experts was that this figure had strangely appeared on the defensive array. They did not know where it had come from. If he was outside, he would definitely be discovered by the experts of the House of Storms. If he was in the city, why did he appear outside the defensive array? Could it be that he had passed through the defensive array? This thought immediately made countless experts curious and afraid. If they could easily pass through the array, what kind of powerful cultivation would they need? It's you. It's you. It's him. It's him. For a moment, countless experts recognized the white-robed young man on the defensive array. Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face as he looked at the 9 array masters from the House of Storms and the 20 over martial emperor powerhouses. As for the other martial honors and martial emperors, he did not take them seriously at all. He didn't want to attack at first, but seeing that the defensive array was about to break, he was worried that Spirituality City would be destroyed. If the 9 array Tao masters could understand his words with his help, it would be their good fortune. If they couldn't understand his array Tao quintessence, then they deserved it. Li Lingtian's appearance shocked countless people. The powerhouses from the House of Storms and the Inspiration City were astonished when they witnessed Li Lingtian's strength at Mount Tianhao. Li Lingtian. It's Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian's reputation was well known in the Tsang continent. In the past year, Li Lingtian's name had spread across half of the continent. I didn't expect it to be him. In the Queen's palace, Li Lingtian's figure appeared on a huge crystal stone in front of Shan Yu, who was sitting on the throne. After Shun Yu finished speaking, he looked at Shun Mei, who was sitting down. Don't you want to know who defeated the array master of the House of Storms? A rare smile appeared on Shun Yu's face. In this place, only she, Shun Tianzhou, her 3 daughters, and a few disciples were present. I don't want to know. Shun Mei said calmly. To her, it didn't matter who defeated the enemy's array Dao master. In her heart, other than him, no one else was worth anything. She wouldn't care about anything else. Where's Li Lingtian? Shun Yu looked at Shun Mei and sighed in her heart. This was the Queen's palace's rule, and she couldn't break it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have made things difficult for her precious daughter. What is it? Li Lingtian. Hearing Shun Yu's words, Shun Mei's bright eyes turned and looked at the crystal. Looking at the elegant figure in white inside the crystal, Shun Mei revealed a faint smile. Moreover, there was happiness in her smile. She looked at the figure in the crystal as if she had seen a real person. After a long time, Shun Mei still looked at the crystal stone, not letting go of a single thing, worried that she would miss out on anything related to him. Li Lingtian, the House of Storms has no enmity with you. Why are you always targeting us? Don't you take my House of Storms seriously? Old man Mingtsang recognized Li Lingtian as he shouted with a furious expression on his face. This young man was the one who had ruined the House of Storms' plans several times and messed up what was supposed to be smooth sailing. Furthermore, the House of Storms had to clean up the mess in the end. The House of Storms had 10,000 powerhouses who were now dominating over Spirituality City and were determined to win. However, it was truly detestable that they had discovered Li Lingtian's whereabouts. I said you don't have a good memory, but you really don't. It's time for you to go home and retire. You're making a fool of yourself here. I told you that the House of Storms is just a slightly bigger ant. You just don't believe me. Sometimes, if you think too highly of yourself, you will die faster. With a smile on his face, Li Lingtian glared at old man Mingtsang. If it were not for the formation of the Realm Crossing formation, he would have taken the risk to eliminate this old man and he would not have been so talkative until now. He was relaxed, but his words had stunned all the martial artists in Spirit Rhyme City and the experts from the House of Storms. As one of the 3 super forces in the Azure Continent, the House of Storms was definitely the strongest in the Azure Continent. Now, however, Li Lingtian, a revered martial artist, had described him as a slightly bigger ant. Who would not be shocked? Damn it! Old man Mingtsang and all the martial monarch realm experts of the House of Storms were furious. In front of all the martial artists in the world, they actually called the House of Storms an ant. With that, the 3 martial emperor powerhouses dashed toward Li Lingtian in a flash, intending to tear him apart. However, by the time the 3 figures arrived at Li Lingtian's position, he had already entered the array as if he had just passed through a bubble. The 3 martial emperor powerhouses punched the defensive array. Rumble. The 3 martial emperor powerhouses' attacks erupted with destructive power. However, the 3 attacks were reflected back with a power several times stronger than before. The 3 martial emperor powerhouses suffered a rebound and were sent flying by his attack. They spat out a mouthful of blood and their expressions were extremely ugly. The entire process took only a split second. In that split second, Li Lingtian's body had only sunk a little. However, this action stunned all the powerhouses. This was a powerful defensive formation, yet he entered it without a care. The 3 attacks also injured 3 martial monarch realm experts. The battle had not even begun, but the House of Storms had already suffered a lot. I'll leave the matters here to you. Li Lingtian sauntered away step by step, leaving behind a dashing silhouette. There were 9 array masters guarding this place and more than 10 martial emperor powerhouses. Naturally, he did not have to worry about them. If the Queen's palace wasn't worried, what was he worried about? Li Lingtian left the city wall and made his way toward the Queen's palace. He had already been exposed. The people from the Queen's palace should have known about his arrival long ago. If he did not go to the queen's palace, others would have something to say. The queen's palace was one of the 3 superpowers of the Azure continent. Even when faced with the attack of the strongest house of storms, the queen's palace did not panic at all. I'm Li Lingtian. Greetings, Queen of the Queen Palace. In front of the queen's palace, Li Lingtian called out calmly. His voice was calm, but it traveled far into the depths of the queen's palace. When he finished speaking, he did not stop because the other party did not answer. Instead, he walked straight in. His footsteps were steady, and he had a faint confident smile on his face. Facing the powerful queen's palace, he did not show any fear or panic. As he walked deeper into the queen's palace step by step, the numerous hidden powerhouses did not make a single move. Li Lingtian understood that these hidden powerhouses had obtained permission from the queen's palace. Each step was extremely steady. It seemed very slow, but each step crossed a very long distance. Soon, Li Lingtian arrived at the queen's palace. Looking at the dozen or so figures inside, Li Lingtian secretly circulated his primordial qi and slowly walked inside. His gaze was fixed on the woman on the throne. With a sweep of his gaze, he directly ignored all the martial artists. Finally, his gaze fell on a young girl among them. I'm here. In the hall, Queen Shunyu didn't speak, and no one dared to speak either. The atmosphere in the hall was extremely oppressive. However, Li Lingtian was at ease in the face of this oppressive aura. He was not affected at all. He looked at Shun Mei seriously. He had ignored everyone, including Queen Shunyu. Mei, I knew that you would come. Shun Mei looked at Li Lingtian as tears rolled down her cheeks. She did not care that there were other people around, including the queen, as she threw herself into Li Lingtian's arms. I'll definitely come because I, Li Lingtian, have a woman here. Li Lingtian held Shun Mei in his arms and gently stroked her back with one hand. He comforted her gently with a confident smile on his face. However, the atmosphere in the palace was becoming increasingly strange. Her Highness Shunyu's expression was icy cold while the rest of the people were fuming with rage. Most of them were gloating at Li Lingtian and his wife. Impudent! One of the women shouted as she glared at Li Lingtian with a fierce gaze. Her cultivation base of a fifth heaven martial honored realm was unleashed. Shun Yan, the eldest disciple of the queen, and also the eldest princess. Seeing how Li Lingtian was behaving so presumptuously in front of the queen, he shouted out loud. This way, he could show his loyalty to the queen. The other disciples were also glaring at Li Lingtian coldly, feeling angry and jealous. Greetings, Your Highness. Li Lingtian completely ignored Shun Yan. In front of him, she was nothing but a clown. Dragons would make enemies of ants. If they were to lower themselves to the same level as this clown, wouldn't they be looking for trouble themselves? Then, he bowed to Shunyu. This bow was just a form of respect for the elders. There was no other meaning behind it. It was also a form of courtesy for the younger generation. After saluting Shunyu, he bowed at Shun Tianzhou. It was clear that Li Lingtian was not doing this for the sake of Shun Tianzhou's status and cultivation base. You sure are brave. To actually be lovey-dovey in front of this queen, who gave you such courage? Her Highness, Shunyu, was stunned by Li Lingtian's actions. For the first time, she was at a loss for what to do. In the past, the warriors would kneel before her. She was a high and mighty queen, but when faced with this young man, she had nothing to say for a moment. He was pleased to see Shun Mei and Li Lingtian's reaction. However, when he thought of the queen's palace's rules, his expression turned cold. Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I have always been like this when I am not in the wrong. Li Lingtian replied indifferently in a tone that was neither humble nor respectful. However, after he finished speaking, all the warriors in the hall were stunned. They actually dared to oppose the queen at this time because they knew that the queen was already on the verge of anger. Chapter 371, 3 Waves of Pressure. Chapter 371, 3 Waves of Pressure. Shun Mei-er was stunned by Li Lingtian's words. She knew her mother's character the best. She had always been high and mighty and never allowed others to go against her. Li Lingtian's words had already angered her mother. "Your Highness, he didn't mean it." Shun Mei-er did not know what to do either. She quickly pleaded for Li Lingtian. No matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he would not have a chance to leave this place alive. Even if she stood on Li Lingtian's side, Her Majesty would not let Li Lingtian off. "Humph, arrogant. You're so arrogant in the Queen's palace. Let's see what you've got." Queen Shun Yu didn't even bother with Shun Mei. Her entire body was cold. She was obviously enraged. With that said, a terrifying pressure came pressing down on Li Lingtian. A fourth heaven martial emperor powerhouse's pressure could suppress anyone below the martial emperor realm. Li Lingtian was only a smiling first heaven martial honored realm. She was not in the mood to fight him at all. All she needed to do was to suppress the young man before her with a wave of her pressure transformation. All the warriors in the hall were gloating. Only Shun Mei-er and Shun Tianzhou looked at the pressure in the sky in shock. Li Lingtian's heart trembled as the mighty martial emperor's pressure enveloped him. The pressure was not much different from the pressure of the gorilla demon. It seemed that the queen of the martial monarch realm was not simple. She was a level 4 martial monarch realm expert, yet her pressure had reached such a level. Facing such a super expert, he had already circulated his true essence when he spoke. As long as the other party attacked, he would block with all his might. Looking at the pressure enveloping him, a shocking dragon chi surged out. The light shield of the true dragon was also used. Only dragon energy could withstand the pressure of a super expert. Boom! With a dull thud, a powerful pressure landed on Li Lingtian's body. They were not as shocked as they had imagined when Li Lingtian was sent flying. Li Lingtian's beam shield only trembled slightly as the powerful pressure was blocked by a faint aura. His body was forced to take a few steps back. Facing Queen Shun Yu's pressure attack, a first-level martial honored realm actually received it just like that. It was completely beyond everyone's imagination. They all knew how terrifying the Queen's pressure was. Even a First Heaven Martial Supreme would be sent flying by this pressure, let alone a First Heaven Martial Supreme. Queen Shun Yu was also surprised, but her expression did not change. The faint pressure from her body pressed down again, twice as strong as before. Boom! Another dull thud was heard as Li Lingtian retreated 5 steps. His expression changed as blood trickled down the corner of his mouth. The first time the pressure bombarded him, his mind was greatly shaken. If not for the dragon energy protecting his body, he would have been sent flying long ago. He was incomparably shocked. This queen's strength was too terrifying. The pressure of a 4th-level martial emperor was definitely not as terrifying as the pressure of a gorilla demon. However, the pressure of the queen's palace was not much different from that of a gorilla demon. It must have something to do with the cultivation technique. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so terrifying. He could no longer withstand the destructive pressure of the second pressure attack. He could barely withstand it, but he was also heavily injured. Humph! Shun Yu was shocked when he saw Li Lingtian's insane suppressive defense. He knew his own strength well. He was a peak level for martial emperor. Even if he were to meet a level 6 martial emperor, he would not be defeated. He did not expect that this young man, who was only a first firmament supreme realm expert, would actually be able to withstand his pressure. With a cold snort, the destructive pressure bore down on Li Lingtian. The people in the hall felt as if they were being destroyed and retreated far away. Li Lingtian looked at Shun Yu indifferently without any intention of avoiding him. He activated the Divine Dragon Ring and unleashed a powerful dragon energy. The destructive pressure and dragon energy collided in an instant. Puff! Li Lingtian's face turned pale as he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his smile remained. His body had already retreated to the entrance of the hall, but the destructive pressure still existed. You're Mei Er's mother. I'll take 3 of your attacks as a form of respect for you. It's not that I'm afraid of you. Li Lingtian walked into the hall step by step. Each step weighed more than 1,000 pounds and his face was trembling. No matter how heaven-defying he was, it was impossible for him to defeat the Queen's 4th-level martial monarch realm pressure. He didn't retaliate against the 3 waves of pressure. He was doing this for Shun Mei Er's sake. Hush! Everyone in the hall gasped. It turned out that the other party didn't have the chance to fight back. He had only endured the 3 waves of pressure because of Shun Mei Er. Could it be that he really had the ability to resist the Queen's pressure? No one believed it, but they were shocked to see Li Lingtian withstand 3 waves of pressure. At the very least, they would not be able to withstand the Queen's 3 waves of pressure. Alright, let's see how capable you are. Shun Yu's heart skipped a beat. He was also extremely curious, but his expression was extremely cold. With a wave of his hand, a substantial pressure blasted toward Li Lingtian. In an instant, the pressure traveled 100 meters and landed on Li Lingtian. 5 elements Qi. Li Lingtian did not dare to be careless. He circulated his 5 elements martial souls and a terrifying pressure burst forth. His true dragon Qi protected his mind and his expression was grave. Rumble. With a loud explosion, Li Lingtian was forced to take half a step back. However, he was much better than before. At least, he was not forced back. Moreover, this pressure was the Queen's full strength. One could imagine how powerful it was. Devouring light. With a wave of his hands, Li Lingtian quickly devoured the countless spirit Qi and pressure in the hull. Seeing this, everyone was stunned. Queen Shun Yu's expression changed as well. She waved her hand and retracted the pressure. The air was sucked in, and everyone staggered and almost fell to the ground. Li Lingtian's body swayed as he retracted his devouring light, dragon energy, and 5 elements energy. His expression remained calm. For a moment, there was no sound in the hall. No one dared to breathe loudly. He wondered what the Queen was thinking. He did not know what would happen next. Alright. Mei Er has good taste, but it's impossible for you to take her away. This is the rule of the Queen's palace. If you want to be with Mei, you can only change your surname and marry into the Queen's palace. After a long time, Empress Shun Yu spoke. This young man had a powerful aura and a magical 5 elements martial spirit. He was a rare figure. She did not care about this young man's cultivation at all, but his future was good. Your Majesty. I know the rules of the Queen's palace, but marrying into the Queen's palace is not something I can do. Moreover, I want to take Mei Er away from the Queen's palace. Li Lingtian did not hesitate to ask her to marry into his family and change her surname. Wasn't that humiliating? Even if he died, he could not change his surname. If he even changed his surname, would he still be considered a person? I've already given you a chance. It's impossible for you to take her away. Ask her if she will go with you. The Queen's expression was still as cold as ice. Today, this young man had already gone against her countless times. She had already taken a step back from Mei Er, but now, he still did not know what was good for him. After saying that, he looked at Shun Mei Er with a cold gaze. For a moment, everyone in the hall was stunned by this young man's arrogance. He actually dared to be so rude in front of the Queen. Wasn't he courting death? Immediately, everyone turned to look at Li Lingtian and Shun Mei Er. It was impossible for them to take Shun Mei away. Shun Mei Er looked at the Queen before her eyes fell on Li Lingtian. Their eyes met. He was in a dilemma. On one side was his mother. Although he did not like what his mother had done, she would always be his mother. On the other side was the person he loved. She could come to the powerful Queen's palace for him and use her body to block all dangers for her. In this world, she could no longer find such a person. She could no longer find someone who truly loved her. I'll go with him. Shun Mei looked into Li Lingtian's eyes. She was destined to be his woman for the rest of her life and forever. She could give up everything to follow him because he was the only person in this world who could treat her sincerely. When he said this, he felt very relaxed. Between two difficult choices, he chose the one he liked and expressed his feelings. Everyone in the hall was puzzled. Shun Mei's choice was completely beyond their imagination. Reason. The queen looked calm, as if she had already known this outcome. However, she was curious why her daughter would choose to leave with him. Because I'm his woman. I'm his silly woman. I'll always be his woman. A blissful smile appeared on Shun Mei's face as she spoke calmly. Her eyes were fixed on Li Lingtian as if they were the only two people in the world. A simple sentence was enough. There was no need for too many reasons. Silly woman. This was the way he addressed her. It was also the most heartwarming way she had ever heard him address her. She's the little princess of the queen's palace, my daughter. She's going to inherit the queen's palace. Do you think I'll let you take her away? The queen's heart trembled. She did not expect her daughter to explain everything with such a simple sentence. Naturally, she knew that her daughter was already with this young man. There was no turning back and she could only start with Li Lingtian. If they could keep Li Lingtian in the queen's palace, the matter would be resolved and the queen's palace would gain a powerful helper. Your Majesty, do you also know that Mei is your daughter? Do you think she's willing to inherit the queen's palace? Do you know what she needs? You're a high and mighty queen. Do you know what your family needs? What did you give them? I don't know if your highness wants me to take Mei away, but I will. Li Lingtian replied calmly. There was no change in his expression as he looked at the queen calmly without any fear. The few wise stunned everyone, and their hearts trembled. Chapter 372, 3-Day Agreement, 1. Chapter 372, 3-Day Agreement, 1. There was a brief silence in the hall. It was terrifyingly quiet. It was so quiet that it made one's heart tremble. One could even hear their trembling heartbeat. The expression on the queen's face changed several times. Gradually, her expression turned cold. No one knew what Shun Yu was thinking, but they all felt uneasy. Shun Yu's heart was also trembling. He was Mei-er's mother, and Mei-er was his most beloved daughter. However, for the sake of the queen's palace, he had no choice but to sacrifice her happiness. She was the queen, but she had no choice. A woman had gained the world, but she had lost everything she wanted the most. This was the most painful thing. She had lost everything. However, there was nothing he could do about it. This was the rule of the queen's palace. Are you blaming Bengong? This is a world where the strong are respected. Do you want to change all of this? Unless you can become an ultimate powerhouse and control the fate of the people in the world. The queen's palace is the same. You can't break the rules of the queen's palace because you don't have the ability. Shun Yu's expression was as cold as ice. Everyone in the palace felt their hearts turn cold, and their bodies couldn't help but tremble. No one would dare to endure the queen's wrath. That's right, the strong are respected. What does your highness think is a true expert? Li Lingtian's face was calm and collected as he pulled Shun Mei into his arms with one hand. Her eyes looked straight at Shun Yu without fear, the high and mighty queen. He had already reached this point, and he had no way out. What made him most satisfied was that Shun Mei chose to stand on his side. You're only a mere martial honor. What qualifications do you have to call yourself a strong person? Alright, since you want to be strong, I'll give you a chance. As long as you wipe out the strong people from the House of Storms in Spirit Rhyme City, you'll be strong and she'll let you take her away. The coldness on Queen Shun Yu's face gradually disappeared, but she revealed a disdainful expression. No matter how powerful a revered martial artist was, he was no match for a martial emperor. Moreover, there were more than 20 martial monarch realm experts in the House of Storms. Even an 8th-level martial monarch realm expert would not be able to deal with so many martial monarch realm experts. Moreover, there were tens of thousands of experts in the House of Storms, nearly 30 martial monarch realm experts and more than 1,000 supreme realm experts. With so many experts, who else could deal with them? After saying that, he glared at Li Lingtian coldly. It was impossible. Even if this young man in front of him could become a martial emperor or a martial saint, it would be a matter of a few hundred years later. His problem would definitely make this young man retreat. But then, all the experts, including Shun Yu and Shun Mei, were shocked. Isn't it just a mere House of Storms? I said 2 years ago that I would wipe out the House of Storms. Today is just the right day. I hope your Majesty will remember what I just said. Within 3 days, all the warriors of the House of Storms will be wiped out. Li Lingtian turned to leave after he finished speaking. Before he left, he reached out and stroked Shun Mei's face. He walked away in an extremely dissipated manner, without the slightest bit of hesitation. After Li Lingtian left, everyone finally reacted. Their expressions kept changing. They did not know if they should be disdainful or shocked by the young man's words. Li Lingtian left the queen's palace and returned to the inn. He was meditating and cultivating in his room. He did not take what happened in the queen's palace to heart at all. Some things could not be stopped even if they were to be stopped. Since they had come, he had to face them. In this world, many things were destined. He only needed to control his own fate. Since the other matters in the Azure continent were more or less resolved, he could leave. However, before he left, he had to take Shun Mei away. If he wanted to take her away, he had to wipe out the experts of the House of Storms. This time, he would settle the old scores of the Kanglan building. He had said 3 days, which meant that he had to eliminate the experts of the House of Storms within 3 days. How did it go? Huangfu Yuyan asked Li Lingtian when she saw him after he was done cultivating. Naturally, she knew that Li Lingtian had gone to the queen's palace, but she was not sure how the matter was resolved. Looks like we should leave. Li Lingtian smiled faintly with a relaxed expression on his face. Leave? Where's your little lover? Huangfu Yuyan was stunned. This was not Li Lingtian's style. For the sake of what he wanted to do, he had to try anything. He could not give up so easily. Even if he had to die, he would not hesitate. If he wanted to leave now, something must have happened. Can't you stop saying that? What little lover? You're making me look like I'm having an affair. I will naturally take her away. After this, I will wipe out the House of Storms and leave the Azure continent. Li Lingtian replied calmly. He was somewhat against the term little love. After all, the image of a little lover in his previous life was not good. Shun Mei was his first woman, but his fiancée was Tang Zimeng. Huangfu Yuyan had even started to view Shun Mei as her lover. Bring her out of the queen's palace, wipe out the House of Storms, and leave the Azure continent. You want to use the gorilla demons to deal with them. Huangfu Yuyan came to her senses and immediately understood what Li Lingtian meant. With his cultivation base, it was impossible for him to achieve this. The only one who could accomplish this was the gorilla demon. He had called for the gorilla demons to wipe out the House of Storms and settle the matter with the Queen's palace. There was definitely no need for him to stay in Azure continent anymore. Now that the matter in Azure continent had been resolved, he had to return to Azure continent and find a way to return to the Divine continent. That's right. You guys stay here for the next 2 days. I'm going out for a while. I'll test the power of the war god first. Li Lingtian walked out after he finished speaking. If he wanted to leave, this defensive grand array did not have the slightest ability to stop him at all. Moreover, the Spirit Rhyme City did not allow martial artists to enter, but it did not restrict them from leaving. He easily left the defense array of Spirituality City and flew quickly. In half an hour, he arrived in front of a sea area and cast a spell. In a split second, Li Lingtian sensed the existence of the war god. With a flash, he quickly flew toward the sea and soon arrived on the war god. The battleship he had built himself would naturally not be obstructed at all. When Li Lingtian was casting the magic art, all the powerhouses were awakened. They were all ready to eliminate any enemies they spotted. "Greetings, young master." Dozens of powerhouses bowed respectfully when they saw Li Lingtian. They were also aware of Li Lingtian's robbery of a martial emperor in Spirituality City. Furthermore, he had used an array formation to catch the martial emperor of Kanglin House off guard. A supreme realm expert could only be described as heaven-defying. Humph. Li Lingtian nodded and headed straight to the top 3 floors of the war god. When he arrived at the 3rd floor of the war god, he waved his hand and cast a few obscure spells. A ray of light pressed down on the void, and the restriction shook. Feeling the trembling of the restriction, Ge walked out. When he saw Li Lingtian standing outside the restriction, he was elated. At the same time, he cast a spell. Only when their spells were imprinted together could the restriction be activated. This was also the safest defense of the war god. Even if an array master came, they wouldn't be able to open it. It was Li Lingtian's design to have everyone inside open it at the same time. However, he could open it alone as he did not want to scare Ge and the others. Li Lingtian entered the restriction and arrived at the top floor of the war god. The view was spectacular. Tang Qingyue leaned back in her chair to rest. When she saw Li Lingtian's arrival, a faint smile appeared on her face. She took quick steps toward Li Lingtian. "Lingtian, you're back." "Yes, Sister Qingyue's cultivation has improved very quickly in the past 2 days. I've refined a Tier 5 Azure Yang pill. I should be able to break through after a period of time. I'll find a place with rich spiritual energy for you to break through. Also, we'll be returning to Green Island after a while." Li Lingtian smiled and allowed Tang Qingyue to pull him to a pavilion in the garden. He sat in the pavilion and enjoyed the fragrance of the flowers while Tang Qingyue sat beside him. Ge hugged Li Lingtian's arm with both hands. He did not speak, but his face revealed a curious expression. "Back to Green Island. That's great. I haven't seen father and mother in a long time." Tang Qingyue was stunned for a moment, but then she became excited. Tears rolled down her cheeks. It had been a few years since she left Green Island. Her parents must be very worried. Now that they could go back, they were naturally extremely excited. "Big brother, you're going back to Green Island. When the time comes, I'll see what your place looks like." Ge was happy as well. It did not matter where she was as long as Li Lingtian was with her. However, she was curious to see what Li Lingtian's hometown was like when she heard that he was going back to his hometown. "Yes, there should still be half a year. I'll settle the matters of the Queen's Palace and the House of Storms in these 2 days." Li Lingtian nodded with a nostalgic look on his face. It had been a long time since he left Green Island. He wondered how Tang Zimeng and his parents were doing. As for Sky Cloud's sect, the news of him being hit by the god's wrath must have spread throughout Green Continent. Sky Dragon Empire would definitely be in danger. Although the Heavenly Cloud battleship was powerful, without him, it was inevitable that something would happen. Following that, Li Lingtian chatted and rested with the 2 beauties. He did not have to worry about wiping out the powerhouses from the House of Storms. He only needed to use the war god to wipe out the powerhouses who had escaped. When the gorilla demon attacked, no matter how powerful a martial monarch realm expert was, he was just an ant. He was not worried about this at all. With 2 beautiful women accompanying him, he felt extremely happy. After all, each of these beautiful women were unparalleled existences in the divine martial continent. While he was resting on the war god, Spirituality City was already in chaos. The Purple Jade Palace had rebelled. There were originally 2 martial emperor powerhouses from the Purple Jade Palace, but for some reason, 3 more martial emperor powerhouses had appeared. 5 powerful martial emperors and hundreds of martial honors had suddenly launched a sneak attack. He had killed 4 martial monarch realm experts from the Queen's Palace and 2 of the 9 super martial supreme array Dao masters. The defensive array was broken. The experts of House of Storms and the Palace of Purple Jade joined forces to fight against the experts of Spirituality City. In an instant, dozens of martial emperors and thousands of supreme realm experts fought. The entire world trembled and collapsed, as if the end of the world had arrived. Chapter 373, Chapter 373, Whirlwind Killing Formation and the Destruction of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 373, Whirlwind Killing Formation and the Destruction of Heaven and Earth. The power of the battle could even be felt in the sea. Li Ling Tian noticed the commotion and quickly flew towards Spirituality City. The scene that appeared before their eyes was a destructive battle. Tens of thousands of disciples of the Queen's Palace and the experts of Spirit Rhyme City had all joined the battle. The 10,000 martial emperors, martial supremes, and 30 martial sovereigns from the Azure Billow Tower were also constantly fighting with the martial sovereigns from the Queen's Palace. There were also 2 martial monarch realm experts from the Purple Jade Palace and 3 mysterious black-robed experts. They stood on the side of the House of Storms and bombarded the experts from the Spirit Rhyme City with destructive attacks. Rumble. Boom. Boom. Kacha, kacha. Ah, 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 ah. Explosions rang out, accompanied by countless screams. Countless low-level martial artists were directly destroyed. Even martial emperors and martial supremes could be killed instantly if they were not careful. The Queen's Palace's experts were also fighting a bloody battle. They watched as countless of their loved ones died, and none of the Spirit Rhyme City's experts fled. On the city wall, Queen Shunyu, Shun Tianzhou, and the 3/4 Heaven Martial Emperor Realm Elders of the Queen's Palace had grave expressions on their faces. The House of Storms was determined to wipe out the Queen's Palace at all costs. Outsiders naturally did not know why, but the core members of the Queen's Palace knew why. Your Majesty, if this continues, the Queen's Palace will definitely be lost. Why don't we use the whirlwind killing formation? Shun Ning said seriously as she looked at Shunyu. Seeing countless experts of the Queen's Palace fall, she felt incredibly anxious. If this continued, even if the Queen's Palace survived, it wouldn't be able to become one of the 3 superpowers in the future. Wait, this queen has her own plans. Shunyu looked coldly at the battlefield. Countless disciples and experts were dying every second. The whirlwind killing formation was the most magical formation in the Queen's Palace. It used the wind element to form a destructive whirlwind killing formation. Wherever there was wind, there would be destruction. Even a martial emperor powerhouse could only die in front of the whirlwind killing array. However, the price to pay for using the whirlwind killing array was also very high. That was to exhaust the martial emperor's true origin, cultivation, and lifespan. A martial monarch realm expert's lifespan was a few hundred years. However, to cultivate to the martial monarch realm, it would take more than a few hundred years. Naturally, he would not waste his lifespan. However, in the face of such a great battle, if he did not pay, he would end up in an even worse state. Ah! Ah! With 2 screams, 2 martial monarch realm experts fell. One was the martial monarch realm expert from the Queen's Palace, and the other was the martial monarch realm expert from the House of Storms. At this point in the war, destruction was everywhere, and they were even willing to commit suicide in order to win the war. Li Ling Tian was hiding in the distance as he watched the battle unfold. He was shocked to the core. He could not interfere in a battle between martial emperors. In front of a martial emperor, he was really a small ant. However, his cultivation could not compare to these martial monarch realm experts, but he could eliminate them. At this moment, a destructive whirlwind descended from the sky in the Queen's Palace in the depths of Spirituality City. The formless cloud and the formless wind were the most magical and fastest martial souls in the world. The whirlwind was now heading straight for the 3 martial emperors of the House of Storms. Ah! With a scream, a martial monarch realm expert died. With a scream, the other two martial monarch realm experts were killed before they could even scream. Whirlwinds continued to move the world, and all the experts were shocked. The masters of the Queen's Palace and Spirit City quickly retreated into Spirit City. The masters of Kanglin House wanted to enter Spirit City, but they only received destructive attacks. The world is destroyed. The experts of the House of Storms did not dare to be careless when they saw the Queen's Palace use their strongest trump card. Kill! The leader of the group, a fourth Heaven Martial Emperor realm expert, waved his hand and shouted softly. Immediately, a destructive beam of light shot towards Spirit Rhyme City. The speed was extremely fast, and the destructive light collided with the whirlwind. Crash! Boom! With a loud explosion, the two destructive forces disappeared, but they brought destruction to the space. The space shattered inch by inch. The wind raged, and countless martial artists were instantly killed, turning into ashes and disappearing in the air. He actually brought the compass that can destroy the world. He really wants to wipe out the Queen's Palace. Queen Shun Yu looked at the experts of House of Storms. On one side of House of Storms, 9 powerful array masters were using a huge compass together. The destructive attack light appeared from this compass. Your Majesty, bring the princess and the others back to the array altar. Leave this to us. Shun Ning looked at the battle in front of her. The Queen's Palace was destined to be destroyed this time. However, even if she destroyed Spirit City, the foundation of the Queen's Palace could not be destroyed. However, the Queen had to be there to guard the array altar. Right now, he could only let the Queen return to the Queen's Palace to guard the array altar. Queen Shun Yu didn't answer, but watched the 2 trump cards in the air. At this moment, a loud rumble sounded in the sky. The sound was still in the sky, but in the next moment, it appeared in the sight of all the experts. Looking at the huge monster in the sky, everyone was shocked. A silver spaceship with a radius of 200 miles floated in the air, almost blocking half of the sky. This silver spaceship was 10,000 meters long and 5,000 meters wide. It was tall and domineering. What's that? It looks like a flying ship. But how can there be such a huge flying ship in the Divine Martial Continent? There's actually someone who can build such a powerful spaceship. What is this thing doing here? Could it be the trump card of the House of Storms? For a moment, countless martial artists in Spirit Rhyme City looked at the huge monster in the sky and were extremely shocked. The experts of the House of Storms were equally shocked. However, only Wu Zun and Martial Emperor knew that this huge monster was definitely not from the House of Storms. They did not know which force had such a terrifying guy. Soon, countless experts were shocked again. They looked at the silver monster in confusion. A white-robed young man appeared on top of a silver monster. On top of this huge monster, a human was almost like an ant. Li Lingtian. It's actually Li Lingtian. Could this be Li Lingtian's? That's impossible. What's the use of this thing? He's a powerful holy array master. Only he can build such a powerful spaceship. Countless powerhouses who had seen Li Lingtian before recognized him and were equally shocked. Such a huge flying ship, could it be used in a war? No way, no matter how powerful the flying ship was, it could not participate in the war. Everyone, long time no see. Li Lingtian's expression was calm as he smiled at the powerhouses from the House of Storms and Spirit Rhyme City. Tang Qingyue and Ji Yi arrived at the front of the war god and stood on either side of Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian, what are you trying to do? When Elder Ming Shao saw Li Lingtian, a wave of rage surged out of his heart. He wished he could tear Li Lingtian apart. However, the two sides were currently engaged in a battle. They did not want to cause any more trouble and did not make a move on Li Lingtian. If they were in Li Lingtian's shoes, they would definitely be the first to deal with him. I told you to wipe out your House of Storms. Li Lingtian smiled. He did not take the dozens of martial emperors below seriously. He looked at them as if they were dead. You're courting death. No matter how much old man Ming Shao could endure, he could not tolerate Li Lingtian anymore. With a flash, a destructive attack crashed into Li Lingtian while his body shot forward like a cannonball. Humph! Li Lingtian did not move at all. He merely looked at Old Man Shao, who was flying toward him with a disdainful expression. "I'll return your inner core to you." Following that, he spoke indifferently. None of the powerhouses knew what Li Lingtian meant by his words. However, they knew that Li Lingtian had robbed 2 martial Supreme Realm demonic beast inner cores before. Could it be that he was afraid of Elder Shao and wanted to return the demonic beast inner cores? However, what they didn't expect was that a silver pillar appeared on the war god. The moment the pillar appeared, a ray of destructive light shot towards Old Man Shao with incredible speed. Space itself trembled and tore apart before this light figure. A destructive aura appeared, causing all the experts to tremble in fear. Not good. Boom! Old Man Ming Shao sensed the danger of death and wanted to dodge, but it was already too late. With a loud explosion, the light shadow struck Old Man Ming Shao without any suspense. Old Man Ming Shao's body paused in mid-air for a moment before exploding, turning into ashes and disappearing from the world. Ah! Shoo! All the experts who saw this cried out in surprise. They were completely stunned by this outcome, and their hearts trembled. Old Man Shao, who was at the second heaven of the Martial Emperor realm, was destroyed by a light shadow. He did not even have the chance to resist. This huge silver monster was too terrifying. The powerhouses from the House of Storms and Spirit Charm City stared at Li Lingtian on the war god as if they were looking at a demon. The silver monster must be Li Lingtian. Who would dare to provoke a martial honor who could create something so destructive? What terrifying power! This thing is even more powerful than the whirlwind-killing formation of the Queen's Palace. No wonder they said they would wipe out the House of Storms in 3 days. This strike killed a martial monarch realm expert. If it were to happen a few more times, the martial monarch realm expert of the House of Storms would be finished. What is this thing? Why is it so terrifying? The experts in Spirit Rhyme City and the Queen's Palace were shocked when they saw what had just happened. Shun Mei looked at Li Lingtian on the war god with a blissful expression. For a moment, the powerhouses from the House of Storms and Spirit Rhyme City were looking at Li Lingtian, who was in the air. They did not even have the intention to make a move. Even a martial emperor powerhouse was killed in an instant. Who would dare to make a move? This is the war god. The Kanglan building is very lucky to have given you a chance to escape. Otherwise, you would all have died here. Li Lingtian said loudly as if he was a cat toying with a mouse. He told them to escape, but they knew that anyone who escaped would become the wargod's target. Chapter 374, Chapter 374, The Might of a Tier 8 Gorilla Demon. Chapter 374, The Might of a Tier 8 Gorilla Demon. Boom! Li Lingtian did not wait for Kanglan House's Chang He to escape as he waved his hand. Suddenly, 16 pillars appeared on the war god. These pillars were the power source of the attack. 16 pillars appeared at the same time, each of them emitting a destructive aura, giving off a sense of death. From a silver pillar in the middle, a light shadow rushed out. In an instant, it covered a distance of 10 miles and fiercely bombarded the experts in Kanglan building. The crowd could only see Li Lingtian waving his hand in a sign of 2. With a loud bang, a destructive halo appeared. In the halo, hundreds of martial artists were instantly destroyed. 2 martial emperor powerhouses were also killed in the middle. Only the array masters on the war god understood the meaning of the 6. The 2 represented a type of power, the power of a 6th-rank monster beast's inner core and the offensive array. On the war god, there were a total of 5 levels. The lowest level was the inner core of a 5th-rank demonic beast plus 5 magic crystals. The second level was the inner core of a 6th-rank demonic beast to activate the wargod's destruction array. The highest level was the inner core of a 9th-tier demon beast plus a destructive array formation, but the later 3 levels could not be used because there were no such materials. Furthermore, Li Lingtian had already constructed an even more powerful formation that utilized the inner core of a super sacred beast as its power source. However, this was only a thought. A demonic beast like that was difficult to see, let alone obtain. Screams of pain were heard as Li Lingtian looked down with a cold gaze. 16 light shadows bombarded out continuously, like a barrage of cannons. Although none of them were as powerful as the first two, their power was not much weaker. Moreover, even a martial emperor would not dare to withstand such power easily. A martial honor would also be killed if he was not careful. A few hundred martial monarch powerhouses would die in an instant. The light figure in the middle was specifically targeting martial emperor powerhouses. As long as a martial emperor powerhouse tried to destroy the war god, it would be wiped out immediately. Ah, ah. Rumble. Rumble. Destructive explosions, the earth collapsed, and the experts were killed like ants. The lives of the martial emperors and martial venerables who dominated the outside world were so fragile here. The experts of the Queen's Palace and Spirit Rhyme City were all stunned. What was this? It was complete destruction and slaughter. Join forces and destroy this thing. Old Man Ming Tsang shouted loudly. The death of Old Man Ming Xiao had driven him crazy. Now that he saw the destroyed war god, he hated Li Lingtian to the bone. Instantly, more than 10 martial emperors and hundreds of revered martial artists flew toward the war god. Hundreds of destructive attacks tore through space and bombarded the war god. The powerhouses from the Queen's Palace and Spirit Rhyme City were shocked when they saw the dozen martial emperors and hundreds of revered martial artists trying to destroy the war god. However, it was too late to stop him. Boom! Boom! Explosions rang out as hundreds of attacks arrived in front of the war god. Next time, remember that I am a holy array master. Li Lingtian said coldly, completely ignoring the destructive attacks. A destructive wave of spiritual energy appeared above the war god. All the spiritual energy in the world was directed at the war god. At the same time, the tens of thousands of arrays on the war god were activated. The defensive array neutralized all the attacks from the powerhouses. This change stunned all the fighters. They didn't expect the wargod's defense to be so strong, and its attack to be so insane. It couldn't destroy it, let alone block it. For a moment, everyone was stunned. They didn't know how to deal with the war god. Your Majesty, I believe you can keep your promise. I don't want to play with you guys anymore. You're just a bunch of trash. Li Lingtian shouted in the direction of the Queen with a respectful expression. Then, he looked coldly at all the experts of the House of Storms. His eyes were filled with ruthlessness, as if he was looking at a group of dead people. After he finished speaking, the war god moved in a strange manner and arrived behind the House of Storms. This time, it was a pincer attack with the Queen's Palace and Spirit Rhyme City. Could it be that they want to kill us here? Even if you have the war god, you can't destroy a martial emperor. Yao Tian noticed the wargod's movement and understood that Li Lingtian was going to pincer them. He shouted out loud to warn all the powerhouses from the House of Storms. He also wanted to raise the House of Storms' morale by reminding them that although the war god was powerful, it was not destructive enough to attack revered martial artists and martial emperors above level 8. The few powerhouses that were killed at the beginning were only caught off guard for a moment. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been killed by the war god. You still don't know that you're about to die. Li Lingtian said coldly. With a flick of his divine consciousness, the space around him began to tremble. Rumble. A shocking explosion sounded. This explosion wasn't an attack from the war god, nor was it an attack from a powerhouse. Instead, it was a huge mountain falling from the sky. A destructive pressure filled the entire Spirit Rhyme City. All the martial artists felt death under this pressure. The pressure suppressed them so much that they could not even move their fingers. Even a level 4 martial monarch realm expert's cultivation was suppressed, and their bodies seemed to be imprisoned. A pitch-black mountain landed on the ground. Hundreds of experts from the House of Storms were caught off guard and crushed to death by the mountain without any screams. Instantly, dozens of Martial Monarch Realm experts and hundreds of Supreme Realm experts from the House of Storms were stunned. They looked terrified as if they had seen a ghost. It was the same for the martial emperors and revered martial artists of the Queen's Palace and Spirit Rhyme City. This pressure carried demonic power, but it had supreme might. It was like a small ant in front of a giant god. Looking over, this pitch-black mountain wasn't a mountain at all. It was a 200-meter-tall demon beast. The explosive pressure directly crushed countless martial artists. 8th rank, 8th rank, 8th rank demonic beast. 8th rank demonic beast. Oh my god. This is an 8th rank demonic beast. Oh my god. 8th rank demonic beast. How can there be an 8th rank demonic beast? In an instant, countless Supreme Realm experts recognized this pitch-black giant beast and trembled. The Martial Emperor Powerhouse's face was ashen. In front of a Tier 8 demonic beast, a Martial Emperor was not even comparable to a laughing ant. They had never expected that there would be an 8th tier demonic beast in this place. The Queen and the Elders' expressions changed. This demonic beast must be Li Lingtian's. They did not expect this young man to be so talented, powerful, and powerful. Now, there was still the War God and an 8th rank demonic beast. An 8th rank demonic beast was equivalent to a martial saint. The difference between a martial saint and a martial emperor was like the difference between clouds and earth. Kill them all. Li Lingtian said coldly. His voice was as cold as frost and the world trembled at his words. These were the dozens of martial emperors and Supreme Realm experts of the House of Storms, as well as other forces that had been bribed by the House of Storms. With just one sentence, he wanted to wipe out all the experts. Roar! With a roar, the black starlight arm, which was 100 meters long, swung down like a mountain range. The Supreme Realm and Martial Emperor Realm experts still had a chance to move, but the Martial Monarch Realm experts could not move at all. Under one attack, hundreds of experts were turned into ashes. Screams filled the sky as the ground continued to collapse. For demonic beasts, a strong physique was the most powerful weapon. A 200-meter-long 8th-order demonic beast was like a tiger entering a flock of sheep. Moreover, these lambs were lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Rumble. Crash. Ah, ah. Kacha. The earth collapsed, space shattered, and screams resounded through the world. This time, they did not expect to be slaughtered. Rumble. The Wargod's light projection continued to bombard the enemies. Countless experts who used forbidden spells to escape were killed by the War God. For a moment, the number of experts on the side of the House of Storms continued to decrease and they were constantly killed. Above the Spirit City, the experts of the Queen's Palace and Spirit City were stunned when they saw this scene. After an unknown period of time. Was it a minute, an hour, or a day? With the final explosion, the two god's sealing chains struck the ground, and all the experts disappeared. Li Lingtian's divine consciousness activated the divine dragon ring and the gorilla demon entered it. Looking at the gorilla demon waving the two god's sealing chains in his hands, the shocking power made him excited. Previously, the god confinement chains had been severed by Li Lingtian's celestial emperor blade. There were originally 4 god confinement chains but Li Lingtian had taken away the 2 heavens on the gorilla demon's feet. The god sealing chains in the gorilla demon's hand happened to become its weapon. The shocking power caused even martial emperor powerhouses to die unwillingly. In the beginning, there were only 6 level 6 inner cores left on the War God. Moreover, a level 6 inner core was unable to kill a martial emperor. He could only use the gorilla demon to resolve everything. The world quieted down. 100 miles in front of Spirituality City was a mess. The gorilla disappeared, and the War God floated steadily in the air. Li Lingtian watched everything below indifferently. With a flick of his divine consciousness, Little White appeared and its body flashed rapidly. She had already transformed, but she usually used her real body to cultivate in the divine dragon ring. The white figure kept flashing as she took away the storage bags one by one, along with countless weapons and treasures. In just 5 minutes, Little White returned to Li Lingtian's side and handed him a storage pouch that contained all the powerhouse's storage pouches. Whoosh! At this moment, a stream of icy and fiery chi soared into the sky from the originally quiet battlefield. A shadow appeared, and the shadow gradually condensed into a human shape. However, one side of this human figure was ice, and the other side was flames. The entire person emitted a shocking and strange aura. For a moment, everyone was shocked. Under the attack of the Eighth Order demonic beast, they were all killed. They did not expect that there was still one person who survived. Upon seeing this human figure, countless martial monarch realm experts from the Queen's Palace and Spirit Rhyme City cried out in surprise. Their faces were filled with fear. Chapter 375, Chapter 375, Ice and Fire Ancestor. Chapter 375, Ice and Fire Ancestor. Forefather Ice Fire. Countless supreme experts recognized this figure as the Supreme Elder of the Purple Jade Palace, Forefather Ice Fire. A third Heaven Martial Emperor Realm super expert had actually survived the slaughter of the rank 8 demonic beast. He did not survive, but was reborn. The Supreme Elder of the Purple Jade Palace, the Ice Fire Ancestor, was definitely a super powerhouse among the martial honors and martial emperors of the Spirit Rhyme City. Although he was suppressed by the Queen's Palace, no one could estimate his strength. He actually relied on ice and fire to be reborn. Powerful. Li Lingtian looked at the figure. Although it was not very clear, it had already taken shape. Moreover, his cultivation had already reached the peak of the third heaven. Such a thing should not happen to humans. Generally speaking, only demon beasts would have such a talent. I don't even need the ice and fire ring to achieve the rebirth body. When the time comes, I'll become a martial god. Thank you, Li Lingtian. I won't hold it against you now. Ancestor Icefire looked at his own transformation and laughed loudly. Then he disappeared in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already a faint white shadow in the sky. It was too late for Li Lingtian to chase after him. Furthermore, the Icefire Patriarch was not considered a real entity. In terms of cultivation base and strength, he had a way to kill him. However, he could not do anything to the Phantom Icefire Patriarch who did not have a physical body. One day, I will come back to retrieve the Icefire Ring and Icefire Halo. At that time, the Divine Martial Continent will tremble because of me. In the horizon, the faint voice gradually faded away and Li Lingtian could only hear a faint voice. However, when this voice reached his ears, his heart sank. The Icefire Ancestor had been reborn by relying on ice and fire, and he even said that he would use ice and fire to break through to the martial god realm. This was too terrifying. The forefather must have some sort of secret to becoming a war god, or else he wouldn't have fled so quickly and decisively. The other party also knew that he had the Icefire Ring and Icefire Halo. Last time in Green Island, he was probably sent by the Icefire Ancestor. However, the Icefire Ancestor had escaped. There was nothing he could do. He could only wait until he met the Ice and Fire Ancestor again and obtain the secret to breaking through to the martial god realm. Li Lingtian was certain that his advancement to the martial god realm was related to the Ice and Fire martial souls. It's best if you don't meet me again. Li Lingtian snorted coldly as the war god gently drifted to the top of the wall. With a flash, he left the war god and came to the top of the city wall. He looked at the queen and the other martial emperors. His gaze seemed to be tangible. Other than the queen, the three elders, and Shun Mei, everyone else lowered their heads and dared not look Li Lingtian in the eye. Your Majesty, I have done what I said. Li Lingtian came before the queen, Shun Yu, and bowed respectfully. Finally, his gaze shifted to Shun Mei. His gaze was no longer sharp, but gentle. It was a gentleness that had never been seen before. This gentle gaze made all the warriors feel like they were hallucinating. This was because he was completely different from the domineering young man from before. Before, he was swift and decisive, domineering and unparalleled, but now, he was extremely gentle and could melt the hearts of all the girls in the world. Has Bengong ever gone back on her word? You have exceeded my expectations. This can be considered your lucky chance. Take her and get lost. The queen said coldly. At the end of her sentence, her face became stern. She threw a storage bag to Shun Mei-er and shouted. The aura of a queen rushed over, and all the martial artists trembled. With a smile on his face, Li Lingtian waved his hand and a light shield protected Shun Mei-er. With his other hand, he lifted Huangfu Yuyan and Qing Ling from the city wall. By the time they landed again, Li Lingtian and the others were already on the war god. Thank you for your help, Your Majesty. I will definitely wipe out the House of Storms. I don't care what the Wind Moon Palace is like, but the Wind Spirit Prince is my brother. As long as he's here, the Azure Continent will be one of the two superpowers. Li Lingtian's smile remained on his face as he saluted the queen and spoke loudly. The war god also moved quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was already far away in the sky. Its speed was so fast that it was no different from a martial artist's teleportation. He knew that Her Highness the Queen had to abide by the rules of the Queen's palace, but she did not want to swear an oath, and she did not want her daughter to be sad and lonely. That was why she had made such a decision. All the warriors understood his words. The House of Storms would definitely disappear. The Azure Continent would no longer be the three great super forces, but the two great super forces. Of the two superpowers, one was the Wind Moon Palace, and the other was the Queen's Palace. The Wind Moon Palace was not as powerful as the House of Storms. However, with the Wind Spirit Prince being Li Lingtian's brother, Li Lingtian would not go against the Wind Moon Palace based on their relationship. Otherwise, it would not be difficult for Li Lingtian to wipe out the Windy Moon Palace with his influence. A rank 8 demonic beast was like a martial saint. Without a martial saint, no matter how many martial sovereigns there were, they would only be useless. Shun Mei-er kept looking at Shun Yu and Shun Tianzhou until the war god left Spirit City. When she saw that Yi Xiao couldn't see anyone on the city wall, she turned around. She snuggled gently in Li Lingtian's arms. She had achieved the ending she wanted. It was just that it was too difficult for her mother and father. She did not know when she would be able to see her parents again in the future. Li Lingtian did not say anything as he gently held Shun Mei-er in his arms. The others tactfully returned to their rooms. After a long time, the war god stopped and hovered in the air. Then, more than 10 figures flashed and quickly landed on the war god. Greetings, young master. Greetings, young madam. Yi Feng and the others bowed respectfully to Li Lingtian. When they saw Shun Mei-er, they understood something and bowed to her as well. This bow made her blush. How did it go? Li Lingtian looked at Yi Feng and asked calmly. Young master, the world crossing formation has been sealed. No one knows. Yi Feng replied respectfully. Before the battle, Li Lingtian had already prepared a set of array flags. Once the battle was over, he would seal the array altar without anyone knowing. By then, no one would be able to use the transboundary array. He didn't know why the Kanglan building had crossed over to deal with the Queen's palace, but he knew that the Kanglan building wouldn't do anything for nothing. They definitely needed something from the Queen's palace. The portal can't teleport the war god. We can only fly. Keep an eye on the war god and head to the Kanglan building. After Li Lingtian said that, he brought Shun Mei-er and flew towards the highest floor. They arrived at the top floor and activated the restriction. Qing Ling cooperated with them and Li Lingtian entered the restriction. Following that, Li Lingtian introduced Shun Mei-er to Tang Qingyue and the others. Tang Qingyue was Tang Zimeng's older sister, so it was only natural for her to tell them about Shun Mei-er and him. Sister Qingyue, she is Shun Mei-er. Li Lingtian felt awkward but he could only brace himself for the moment. Sister Mayer is indeed beautiful. No wonder this fellow would take the risk to come and pick you up. I really don't know why you like him. Tang Qingyue was rather generous. She reached out and pulled Shun Mei over. She smiled and left Li Lingtian alone. Greetings, Sister Blue Moon. Shun Mei did not know Tang Qingyue's identity, but since Li Lingtian was so serious, she did not want to be rude. We sisters don't need to be so polite. You still don't know who I am, do you? I'm her fiancé's sister. Be careful in the future and keep her under control. When we go back to Green Island, he'll suffer. Tang Qingyue stared at Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian quickly turned around and did not look at the two beauties. In fact, Tang Qingyue also knew that the world was full of 3 wives and 4 concubines. The more powerful a man was, the more wives and concubines he had. There was no girl who did not like a monster like Li Lingtian. Even if he did not flirt with women, there would still be people who would come knocking on his door. Yes. Shun Mei only gave a shy Even though she was with Li Lingtian, she was still shy in front of outsiders. Following that, Li Lingtian introduced Shun Mei to Huangfu Yuyan and Ge. Even Qing Ling and Little White knew about Shun Mei. In less than half a day, the girls were fighting each other. They did not pull Li Lingtian together at all. Li Lingtian had suddenly become an extra. This was even better. Li Lingtian could now quietly hide in his room and cultivate. During his free time, he cleaned out the storage bags of the martial emperors, martial venerables, and martial monarchs. There was no need to mention the spirit stones and medicinal herbs. There was a huge pile of weapons and treasures. The lowest storage bag belonged to a martial emperor, and there were also storage bags belonging to a martial supreme and a martial emperor. A martial supreme's storage bag was equivalent to the wealth of dozens of martial honors. In just a short while, Li Lingtian had obtained nearly 200 billion spiritual stones. There were a lot of emperor weapons and heaven weapons, as well as a few saint weapons. Although they were all low-grade, these treasures were already considered heaven-defying in the Azure continent. Li Lingtian sorted out some of his cultivation techniques and skills before distributing them to his little beauties. After choosing, the rest of the weapons, skills, and techniques were distributed to the martial emperor powerhouses on the war god so that these martial emperors and martial supremes could add equipment. This was also a form of investment. The Supreme Realm experts who had obtained heaven artifacts and saint artifacts were all extremely excited. Even the martial monarch realm experts had obtained heaven artifacts and even heaven-rank superpowers. Li Lingtian had already agreed that everyone would cultivate the heaven-rank divine ability once to see which one was suitable for them. There was no one who wouldn't be excited to use heaven artifacts, emperor artifacts, and saint artifacts, as well as cultivate heaven-grade divine powers. Following Li Lingtian, they had plenty of pills, weapons, and skills. Li Lingtian's position in his heart had reached a point where no one could replace him. The Wargod's defense was strong, and its attacks were destructive. However, it required the inner core of a 5th or 6th rank demon beast. As it flew, it stopped when it came across a big city. Half of the warriors went down to collect the inner cores of 5th and 6th rank demon beasts. This way, they could replenish the source power of the war god, so that they wouldn't have to worry about not having powerful inner cores to use. Chapter 376, Chapter 376, News of the Martial God. Chapter 376, News of the Martial God. The incident at Spirit Rhyme City had already spread throughout the entire Azure continent. The House of Storms had used the Interrealm formation to attack the Queen's Palace in Spirit Rhyme City. Dozens of martial monarch realm experts had attacked the Queen's Palace, and with the betrayal of the Purple Jade Palace, it was supposed to be easy for them to take down the Queen's Palace. However, what was unexpected was that when the Cross-Realm Grand Array was activated, it was disturbed by a young man who robbed 10 6th-tier demon beast inner cores. After that, he used the array to destroy the good thing of the Kanglan building. these were nothing. When it was time for the final battle, that young man appeared and single-handedly controlled the entire battlefield. It was this young man who was at the first level of the Supreme Realm who was actually a Holy Array Master. He also had a spaceship called the War God. It was a destructive attack. The terrifying power had killed a martial monarch realm expert before, and in the end, an 8th-tier demonic beast had appeared. 8th-rank demonic beasts were equivalent to the existence of a martial saint. This young man actually possessed an 8th-rank demonic beast. This news, no one was not shocked. This young man was none other than Li Lingtian, who had wiped out the Dishi family. He did not expect that he would appear in the Queen's palace this time and even wipe out tens of thousands of experts in the Kanglan building. Dozens of martial monarch realm experts were also killed. Only the ice/fire ancestor managed to escape. Everyone else was wiped out. More importantly, Li Lingtian had actually taken away the Queen's palace's little princess. He also announced that the Kanglan building would be wiped out, and the war god would be heading towards the Kanglan building. In front of the world, he said that he wanted to wipe out the House of Storms. The 3 super forces of the Azure continent would become 2 super forces, and the forces would be distributed by him. All the powerhouses of the Azure continent were shocked and looked at the House of Storms. He did not know how the House of Storms could withstand Li Lingtian's attack. To be precise, they were prepared to withstand the attack of an 8th-order mystical beast. Li Lingtian was cultivating in his room. From time to time, he would chat with the beauties. The spaceship flew steadily towards the Kanglan building. On this day, Li Lingtian was cultivating when Huangfu Yuyan walked in and sat beside him without any restraint. "Are you doubting what Forefather Icefire said?" Huangfu Yuyan said as she looked at Li Lingtian with her beautiful eyes. "Yes, that's right. He said that he can become a war god. It seems like it's because of the ice and fire martial souls. When I was in Green Island, he even sent people to Sky Dragon Empire to snatch the ice and fire ring. Moreover, the ice and fire ring and the ice and fire halo are with me. Although he didn't snatch the ice and fire ring, it seems that I've fulfilled his wish this time." Li Lingtian nodded and spoke in a serious tone. He would not give up the opportunity to improve his cultivation base. Furthermore, the martial soul cultivated by the Ice-Fire Patriarch was exactly the same as his. Both of them had the ice and fire martial spirits. Since the ice and fire ancestor said he could become a martial god, it was because of the ice and fire martial spirits. The forefather had a way to become a martial god, and he wouldn't let go of this opportunity. There was another problem, and that was that the forefather was scheming against him. He's right. The ice and fire martial souls can indeed help you break through to the martial god realm. There's one thing you might not know. Every expert who has reached the martial god realm has 2 kinds of martial souls. The 2 martial souls must complement each other. Only after breaking can one have a chance to become a martial god. Furthermore, the higher the cultivation, the stronger and more stable the martial soul required. 2 martial souls complement each other, which is one of the key factors for a martial god to be powerful. There are also 3 martial souls, which is the triangular tripod. Your ice and fire martial spirits are also the key to breaking through to the martial god realm. HL give you a trace of the genuine vitality of a martial saint. You also have a martial spirit of the 5 elements completion. This is also a chance to break through to the martial spirit realm. Perhaps your ice and fire martial spirits will allow you to achieve even higher achievements because you have the foundation of the 5 elements perfection. Huangfu Yuyan spoke slowly. She was experienced in cultivation and as a martial saint powerhouse from a large family clan. The books she had read were not something Li Lingtian could compare to. Moreover, she had high hopes for Li Lingtian to become a martial god. Although she had 2 martial souls, her hopes were slim. However, she wanted to see if Li Lingtian could achieve the martial god realm. "I see." Li Lingtian revealed an TC expression. Although he was the reincarnation of the 9 Yang Saint Lord, he did not have the 9 Yang Saint Lord's memories. Therefore, he had to start all over again and explore on his own. Now that he had Huang Fuyuyan, he could know more. At the very least, Huang Fuyuyan was once a martial saint. Not bad. Good luck. I hope you won't disappoint me. Huang Fuyuyan's old-fashioned tone stunned Li Lingtian as a strange smile appeared on his face. This tone is like a master and disciple. Li Lingtian looked at Huang Fuyuyan and chuckled. Then try calling me master. Huang Fuyuyan burst into laughter when she heard Li Lingtian's words. You wish. However, the relationship between the master and the disciple should be closer. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he wrapped his hand around Huang Fuyuyan's slender waist and pulled her into his embrace. He then kissed her rosy lips. The next day, Huang Fuyuyan quickly put on her clothes and fled back to her room without caring about Li Lingtian's gaze. However, her face revealed a pained expression as she walked. Naturally, Li Lingtian knew what was wrong with Huang Fuyuyan. He had gone overboard yesterday. Li Lingtian did not see Huang Fuyuyan for the next few days. He did not ask her about it and instead focused on his cultivation. The nurturing of treasures, the strengthening of skills, and the comprehension of pill techniques and cultivation techniques could not be relaxed. The God's Array diagram was also the most important one. Moreover, the God's Array diagram had brought him countless benefits, making him like a fish in water. Naturally, he would not be so relaxed. Usually, Li Lingtian would cultivate his skills during the day and play with a few girls. He would cultivate the true dragon body barrier and heaven and earth reincarnation technique while comprehending cultivation techniques and alchemy techniques. The days passed by leisurely. After a few days, Huang Fuyuyan finally came out. However, her face was flushed when she saw Li Lingtian. The girls could tell that something was amiss but they did not voice it out. Gradually, Huang Fuyuyan got used to it. However, Huang Fuyuyan avoided Li Lingtian and was too embarrassed to face him alone. Li Lingtian did not make things difficult for Huang Fuyuyan. After all, it was her first time and there were other people around. Naturally, she would feel embarrassed. On this day, Li Lingtian and the others were cultivating when Yifeng's voice came from below. Young master, Blue Lake City is just ahead. Qiuming has sent news that the auction that happens once every 10 years will be held tomorrow. Do you want to go and take a look? Yifeng's voice was transmitted to Li Lingtian through the crystal. 100 miles from Blue Lake City. Hide the war god. I'll go down and take a look. Li Lingtian pondered for a moment. He had been on the war god all this while and was starting to get bored. The girls around him all liked to play. Although he did not say anything, he understood that these girls wanted to go down and play. This subordinate will obey. Yifeng's respectful voice sounded again, and then there was no more sound. Li Lingtian walked out of the room as well. When he saw the girls chatting about something, he walked up to them with a smile. Qingling, Huang Fuyuyan, Ge, Shun Mei, Tang Genji, and Little White didn't cultivate either. Instead, they chatted with the girls. Little White was originally a girl. Li Lingtian did not know about it in the past, but now that she had transformed into a girl, she was also a beautiful and peerless dragon girl. Just like Ge, she was the noblest princess of her race. Big brother, Sister Genji is talking about you in Green Island. Ji pounced into Li Lingtian's arms like a little bird when she saw him coming out. She looked extremely coquettish and Li Lingtian could only caress her little face with his hand as he revealed a loving expression. Me? I have nothing to say. Li Lingtian smiled as he led Ji towards Tang Genji and the girls. He sat down beside Huang Fuyuyan and glanced at the girls. Sister Genji said that you used to be looked down upon and called a good-for-nothing. Ji pouted as she asked with a questioning look on her face, as if she was seeking confirmation from Li Lingtian. That's right, I wasn't much in the past, but I wasn't as bad as Sister Genji described. Li Lingtian sighed before he began to talk about his past. The girls were extremely excited to hear his story. This was a shocking reversal. From a nobody that everyone looked down on, he had become a dominator of Green Island. You're tuning into the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.